Hey guys, welcome to Picksburgh. This is Anthony. Appreciate you joining me and my co-host Michael over at Huddle Card Collection for another episode of Collecting Profit. Today, I'm really pleased to introduce our guest. His name's David. He also has a channel called Parabellum Gaming, but he is a collector from abroad. He's from Australia, and we're going to be able to ask him all the questions you've ever wanted to ask somebody who collects cards from Australia. Plus, he has some really cool, local card shops and grading companies that are local to the area that he's going to promote today as well. So just really excited to introduce him. Before I do that, again, Michael over here at Huddle Card Collection here to my right. We alternate this show every other week. So next week, we're going to be on his channel. Again, typically it's Wednesday evening at 10 p.m. Eastern time. But our guest was very gracious enough to work with us to come on a day early because I will be traveling tomorrow evening. So really appreciate it. Michael, is there anything you wanted to touch on before we introduce our guest?
No, hey, just guys, welcome. Looking forward to this. We got, another great guest. We have, more coming up as we go along. And I'll say it always, like I say in my videos, you guys want us to get certain types of, collectors on or investors or sellers. Just let us know in the chat and everything, and we will do our best to find people to come on. So we're excited about some things we're working on for some types of guests you normally don't get on, these types of shows. But I'm excited to hear, to learn more about what it's like collecting, abroad.
Yeah, me too. Shout out to my guy, Gate City Paul. Really appreciate you being here, Paul, as always. So yeah, guys, without further ado, this is David from Parabellum Gaming. David, before we get rock and rolling with questions, is there anything that you'd like to kind of share about yourself for the people that may not know you yet?
Yeah, well, g'day guys. Glad I can join you today. A bit warm here in Australia, so for you guys, it's like about 86 degrees. For me, I've been a collector for all my life, not just sports cards. I sort of, as a kid in the early 90s, was collecting basically Australian football cards and US basketball cards. I've been a fan of NFL since pretty much early childhood, 1980, San Francisco fan. Sorry for the others who don't like San Francisco, but yeah, no, I've been a collector for, going on 30 odd years now, of different things, be it sports cards, motorsport memorabilia, meeting celebrities and getting autographs from celebrities, you name it. I've pretty much done it at the moment. So yeah.
Really cool. Who's like the coolest celebrity, or at least your favorite celebrity you've had a chance to meet and get an autograph from so far?
My bucket list celebrity had always been Robin Williams. I did get a chance to meet him in, I think it was 2011, a couple of years before he passed.
That's awesome.
Over the course of 2 nights, got to spend probably about 5 minutes a day just having a chat with him about life and, stuff like that. And, able to get a few items signed by him that, I hold dear to myself because they're all the films and TV shows that I idolized him from.
Yeah. What was he like? Was he as cool of a person as you would think he'd be, like if you met him in person?
He definitely wasn't that persona of Robin Williams, wild man that you see him on David Letterman and stuff like that. He was quite a well-centered person, well-spoken, and fairly quiet. I very got much lucky. When I got to meet him, there was only 2 fans, myself and one other person, waiting to get autographs. Everybody else didn't even think about it, and it was the back of the show. So, like, I have a rule: I don't try and go for celebrities in their personal time. It's a sort of taboo thing for me. So at the shows, if I can meet them or at premieres, I will. And I just got lucky that he spent the 5 minutes or so to chat to us, and I found him, just like everybody else, a normal human being. Take away that persona of being the wild man on the stage.
That's really cool. So what got you into collecting originally? You said you collect a little bit of everything. What was like the very first thing that you were like, I found this thing, I really like it, and I want to start collecting it? What was that thing?
I'd say it'd be autographs, growing up in Australia, it's not like, the States and other countries where, we have easy access to celebrities and that in regards to Hollywood stars or TV shows. And a good friend of mine, Rob Brown, had mentioned one day that he's going to one of the first major Star Trek conventions here in Australia, which was Michael Dorn and Walter Koenig were the guests, and went along to that, and that sort of sparked the interest of meeting celebrities more often. And it's sort of been quite a regular thing for me, although work does sort of get in the way, unfortunately, in a lot of these times. Because I can tell you, next week on Thursday, I would have been at the movie theatre to go and try and meet Paul Rudd again, because he's in Sydney next week for Ant-Man.
That would be super cool.
Yeah. But I have met him. So I'm not too worried about that.
What was Paul Rudd like? Was he cool?
It was hard to talk about Paul Rudd because it was sort of a quick thing, because I went to the movie premiere of Anchorman 2, and they had all 4 major cast members here. So you had Will, you had Steve, you had Dave, and you had and Paul. And I actually have a cast photo signed by all of them. And Dave was gracious enough to actually, sign it to me. So again, that makes it a little bit more unique for me.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's probably the one person I had probably the interaction with Dave, because most of them want the A-list celebrities. Dave was sort of that fill-in actor, and it was a good chance to have a chat with him, just 5 seconds. But for most of the time, you don't get a chance to have a chat with him.
Now, just out of curiosity, I know that like Hollywood celebrities are famous pretty much all over the world, but do you guys get a lot of entertainment value from the States? Like as far as like what's on TV, like obviously like WWE wrestling, like we get, like the same type of stuff, like, NFL football, NBA, like that type of stuff. Like, are all of those things like available to you on like regular cable? Or do you have to like pay like extra, like a Sunday ticket or like something above and beyond to get access to like normal, like what we would consider like American entertainment? Is that something that's like readily available in Australia?
Majority of the stuff is readily available on free-to-air, but if it's sort of the big launch stuff, like in the recent years, Netflix has come into the market, Amazon Prime and stuff like that. So we're starting to see those being the go-tos. Even Paramount Plus. If you want to watch those shows, you've got to sort of subscribe to them on a yearly basis, like you would in the States. But we have access to them. It's always going to be a fee for a lot of these things if you want to see right now. With regards to NFL, it's not really big push here in Australia. Unfortunately, like it's still a very small group of people who watch it. So that's going to be on like your KOs or your Fox Sports here in Australia. In regards to the question there, AFL is the number 1 sport in Australia, which is Australian Football League, or Aussie Rules, or as I call it, aerial ping pong. So if you Google that, you'll see what I mean. Bunch of guys running around in singlets and shorts, and majority of the game is kicking the ball and handballing the ball. So completely different to your regular football.
Okay, cool. Now, in regards to, you said that NFL isn't super popular. How'd you become a Niners fan?
Yeah.
Strangely enough, through my mother. My mother was actually an American football fan. We had a TV host here in Australia by the name of Don Lane. He was actually from the States. He actually, strangely enough, had performed in Vegas in the 60s and that, and had worked with Sinatra and stuff like that. So he had a good rapport with those guys. But he came to Australia and worked on our ABC, our national broadcaster, and he'd actually worked with them to actually do Super Bowl broadcasts, and he'd have studio audiences come in that. And regularly on a Monday, you would, because Monday's your Sunday, of course, we would have the broadcast here, and he'd actually explain the game. So it became a little bit more understandable for the locals. So that's where our introduction to American football was. And I remember that vividly, like, through the 80s, Don Lane's show was always the one you watch for the football, the American football. So, and there's quite a few fans in the market here for American football. But again, the local sports sort of take above that by a mile. So
how
the number one. Sorry.
So how does that affect? How does that help you or hurt you in collecting NFL stuff?
Doesn't help me because the prices are still quite high. So
Okay.
based on the American market pricing, like NFL is up there with the NBA. So in Australian dollars, like a box of Spectre right now is about $1,200 Australian, which is about $850 or so US, depending when the dollar fluctuates. So some of it's well priced beyond most people's collections. And unfortunately, with the lack of card stores in Australia, you don't really have any other choices except for Facebook or eBay to actually trade with. Yes, it is. It is completely different, Paul. There's three codes effectively in regards to our football. So let's take out soccer. Soccer is soccer. That's the traditional football. AFL is based on a Gaelic football sport. And it's a lot of handballing and kicking. The actual pitch is one of the largest pitches you're ever going to see, larger than an NFL pitch, larger than a baseball pitch. It's quite a large pitch. Then you've got the rugby league, the NRL, which is predominantly East Coast teams, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and even Canberra. They have teams. And then you'd have the rugby union, which is the sport most people would recognize, where you, I guess you play it in the States. You're talking about, Anthony, I think your cousin
plays rugby league. My cousin played for the Pittsburgh Harlequins back in the day.
Right. So rugby's a little bit different to you. Yeah. If you Google YouTube it, you'll see the differences between the sports. There's quite a big difference between the three sports. League is hard-hitting, fast-paced. Union's a little bit like the NFL, but it is still fast-paced, so it's continuous playing. There's no sort of timeouts or anything like that. And each game for the the NRL and the Union is 2 halves, so 40-minute halves. And the AFL's like the NFL, 4 quarters.
Okay. Oh, wow. Do you have like a favorite personally, like as far as sports go?
I grew up with NRL because being a Sydney boy, that's what we had. That's predominantly most teams. When I was growing up, AFL was sort of this, the sport down south. So we didn't really follow it. And then in the mid 80s, there was an entrepreneur who bought up one of the teams from Melbourne, and they've become the Sydney Swans, and they've actually got an extremely good following. So the sport's become more popular in the last 20, 30 odd years. In Sydney, we've now got 2 teams in Sydney, so but I still prefer the NRL. It's hard hitting. You watch the big draw card game is always going to be the state of origin, where New South Wales versus Queensland, and even though some of these guys are mates, they will actually knock each other out if they have to. Pretty brutal sport, and no pads, no headgear, nothing. This is just straight up what you're wearing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Now, do they have are they represented in the hobby with cards?
Yeah. So I'm going to shoot myself in the foot here because I can never remember the company, but there is a company, I think it's called Traders. It's a local company who actually produces the NRL, the cricket, and also the AFL cards. Unlike your Paninis and that, they are a smaller company. So with the NRL being a smaller sport effectively nationally, you only sort of have the basic retail sort of range, and then the high-end stuff is not that expensive. So they're sort of not like a vernacular to that. AFL, on the other side, they do your basic stuff, you do your mid-tier stuff, and then you do something called Supremacy, which would be on the level of your Immaculate and stuff like that. One-on-one patches, game-worn news stuff, signatures. So yeah, there's quite a bit there. Same with the cricket. So that cricket's massively overseas too. So a lot of people will buy the cricket stuff for overseas market.
Nice. Oh, wow. Is cricket super popular in Sydney where you're at?
Yeah. Cricket's super popular. Like, just like in the States, you go to any suburb and you've got a baseball field. You go to any suburb here in Sydney, you've always got a cricket field. You've now got an AFL field effectively side by side, or the same use, or you've got a cricket field. So you have usually all three in one suburb. So yeah.
Cool. So what is like, would you say, like, as far as collecting cards goes, like what's the most popular sport to collect there in Australia?
Yeah, so
overall popular?
NBA is definitely number one. Basketball is popular. It's been popular since day dot, effectively. Then you'd be looking at AFL. Would probably be a second, followed by probably the NRL. Then you probably have your other lesser sports, so NFL, possibly cricket, NFL, and then baseball probably behind that. So, but yeah, they're all up there.
That's cool.
Hey, Dom is a player and a coach and a referee.
Yes, I remember the comment the other day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So when baseball, is there an Australian baseball league?
There is. They used to be popular in the 90s. There's actually a few players that actually represented and played over in the States who beat retirement, or they decided to just come back home. They did have a league here, and they actually did have a trading card series, which, funny enough, I have some cards somewhere here that are signed by some of the players. But
Nice.
It's not super popular now. Hasn't been probably for the last 10, 15 years. But there are still leagues. There's your local NFL sort of inspired leagues. One of our local breakers, Carlos, from Out of the Box Breaks, he's a part of the team up there in Queensland, and they regularly play, and they're just having fun.
Oh, that's cool. Paul says Taco Fall he thinks is playing in an Aussie league currently. I know last I heard Taco Fall was with the Cavs, but then after he left the Cavs, I have no clue where he went.
I haven't heard anything about Taco Fall here locally. Like, I'm a Sydney Kings fan, so I'll keep the Kings thing going with Sacramento. But I haven't heard of Taco Fall. We've had some really good players in recent past. Matty Dellavedova's been here in Australia. He's now playing for the Kings, of course. I'm
a big Delly fan myself, being that he was a Cav for so long.
Yep. Yeah, I've got a few of his cards, thankfully. So, but he'll probably come back to Australia after the season's finished and play back in Australia. But our league plays at the same time as the US, so it's a bit hard.
Okay. Makes sense. Do you tend to find like a lot of the Australian guys after they're retired come back and play, like extend their career in Australia, or have you seen like basically just them not continue playing?
Yeah, there are a couple here and there. It's not that common. Like, most of the guys who come back here probably just didn't make it in the States. Like,
Gotcha.
Currently our league is really well sorted for players. Like a lot of the guys who played in the States in college and that, take LaMelo Ball, for instance, came here to Australia just to try and get something game wise, and that, look where he is now. Even Josh Giddey. Like, Josh Giddey played here in Australia in our league, and moved across and is now playing extremely well in the OCK.
Yeah.
OKC, sorry, OKC. But yeah,
did RJ
and that's the thing
for you guys too?
Sorry,
did RJ Hampton also play for you guys?
Yeah, RJ Hampton played here. I'm just trying to think who else. RJ Hampton.
Lately, it seems like there's been a lot more guys trying to use that path to the league as opposed to the G League, or as opposed to even going to colleges, because I mean, they'll probably get better talent against grown men fighting for their paychecks. I'm pretty sure that's why LeVar Ball said that he sent LaMelo there, was so that way he'd get like real experience versus like guys that are like hungry for a paycheck.
Yeah, well, that's right. And I think last year's draft class, you got, I think, at least 4 or 5 players from our league is now represented in the NBA. It's better for our sport because, like, I know with New Zealand Breakers, one of the NBA players in there have actually invested money into the team. There's talk that other players, like, possibly a LaMelo's and that, who will in future consider using their money to bolster this series because it'll benefit the league in the overall. Like Topps just announced just recently in the last 6 months or so that they're now doing the Australian Basketball League's cards. So that's going to be an interesting sort of thing. Unfortunately, they did it a couple of years late. We could have had LaMelo Ball actual signature cards, and instead of waiting for redemptions, it's never going to happen.
He wouldn't have signed.
No, I don't know.
You don't know. He actually did sign a lot here.
I don't know.
Actually sign a lot here.
I was gonna say I don't know if people are paying this price, but I've seen on eBay some of like the Lithuania cards that have like LaMelo and LiAngelo on them are like going for like outrageous pricing.
Oh yeah.
Like the autographs, like not so much like just like a base card of them, but like the ones that they have like autographed. I don't know if it was like Leaf that put out like a set back in the day that had them in the Lithuania gear, but I can only imagine if there would be something comparable that, like, for example, Topps, if they're working with the Australian Basketball League, they probably are going to be licensed, you know what I mean, to where they could have had like the actual logos as opposed to like what we got in Prism Draft Picks, which is LaMelo in either a black jersey or like a red and white jersey, you know what I mean, where they could have like actually had like a really nice looking card for him.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, and the talk at the card store, that, you know, I've got a good relationship with the boys at the card store. Panini's got to find a way to you know, plan for the future. Once they lose these licenses, if they're not taken up by the Fanatics sort of side of it, they're going to have to really scrape the barrel and look for something to invest in. And look, NBA is a good way to do it, but unfortunately, Topps got that contract. At least, you know, as you said, they can use those logos and that for the Australian League. And once they take on the you know, NBA sort of side of it, then they can transition those images across possibly into the draft pick stuff. Then again, depends on the sort of licensing agreements that NBA and NBL have. So
true. Hey, thank you so much, Mark. Mark's always the guy to go to for like inside knowledge on stuff. Gave us the location of Taco Fall. He's playing for the Shenzhen Flying Tigers in China, which is pretty cool. You know, it's funny. I see that comment, and literally all my mind goes to is, I wonder how much damage Taco Fall does at a Chinese buffet. Could you imagine hitting a buffet with that guy? What is he, like 7'7"? Like he's reasonably skinny, but I would imagine he can put away some food. It's always the skinny guys that like surprise you with how much they can eat.
Oh yeah,
their hollow leg is longer.
Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, man, that's super cool to hear. What you were telling me about some different places that you typically will frequent as far as like hobby related stuff. Now, as far as like the card scene, like I know you're familiar with a little bit of the US scene from like YouTube and stuff, whether that's like the Burbank Card Shop or like the Dallas Card Show or like stuff like that. In Australia, how does like what you guys have available to you there compare to like those type of things?
Yeah, so my local card store is Diggers, based in Penrith. You know, the gentleman who owns that store, Michael, has done a phenomenal job. Like he unfortunately he planned that sort of store just before COVID broke out. It was in construction, and unfortunately, the pandemic happened. But the thing is, he was actually well suited to ride out the storm because 90% of his business was online orders because he operated from a warehouse or whatever. So as time went on, the progression of the store getting finished took about the 2 years, unfortunately, because the restrictions in Australia were pretty tough on movement around here or there. But I can tell you, once you open up the store, it's a beautiful store. Like you walk in there, it's you know, top class. It's clean. He's actually taken on 2 locations in the same spot, which has access for a door. So you have the sales area, which similar to like your Burbank sports cards. You know, you've got a display area for all the product behind the counter, and then you've got a display counter with all the nice cards that you can potentially buy as singles. Still a work in progress. He's still working on the stuff. And then you go to the other room. It's a large room, same size as the retail area. It's a break room. You can go in there. He's provided, I think it's 2 tables with at least 12 chairs each. Got 3 big flat screen TV sets, each one usually playing a different sport at a time, which you can request to, change the channel if you want. And he's happy for you to go in there and do breaks or trade days and stuff like that. Very open guy. In Victoria, you've got a couple of big stores down there. I know Brisbane's got about 3 or 4 different hobby stores. Adelaide's got 1 that I know of, and that's pretty much it. So we pretty much don't have a lot, considering how big the country is. There's not a lot of hobby stores. Most of the stuff, like the local football, the AFL and that, is all sold at your local paper shops or service stations and stuff like that. So you don't really have a lot of call for those sorts of stores. But there are a few hobby stores now taking on stock. But again, it's one of those things. Your hobby store is going to try and take care of you with your pricing. Some of them don't, and then you're going to have the little retail stores who put cards in there and they're like, we're going to jack these prices up and see how much we can get out of you.
Hey, Ziggy, what's up? Good to see you, brother. Appreciate you being here.
So, Dave, you mentioned, with, COVID, with the pandemic and stuff. So you were in the hobby before then. So you had the hobby was at some kind of state before, and then they had the pandemic, and now, you're out. Is it back, or is it still coming back, or here, for us in the States, really the pandemic kind of really was a major kick in the ass to the hobby. Well, was it the same type of stuff where you are?
Exactly the same. The unfortunate side to Australia is we don't get a lot of the retail, and because of what happened in the States, we were really struggling to see any sort of retail. Unfortunately, the companies here don't really support a lot of it. When they do, they just basically dump on the shelf and that's it. You go for it. But like we don't see like megas, we don't see blasters. A lot of that comes through the online guys, unfortunately. And with the shipping costs the way they are, I can understand some of the prices being ridiculous. But yeah, we saw the same thing. Like what you pay for the States for a LMLO ball is what we're paying for in Australia for a LMLO ball. Everything's sort of comped based on US prices. I sort of got in the hobby probably about 3 to 6 months prior to COVID hitting. So I was sort of late into it. But I saw that sort of, here's the price here, and all of a sudden it's way up there.
Yeah.
It's sort of globally had the same effect, unfortunately.
Okay.
But we also saw the same thing in the local sports cards. Some of the cards became highly collectible, much more pricier. But luckily, the local hobby boxes didn't change in price. So that was a godsend there. The local stuff didn't go up in price like they did in the States. Yes, they are. Attica Falls is pretty decent.
So you don't get mega boxes or blaster boxes or hangers. You don't get that type of stuff.
We get the hangers and that. Like we're EB Games, which you guys have in the States and Canada. We have them here, and they usually do pre-sales. Unfortunately, the pre-sales online, the bots were always taking care of those numbers. So, sold out in 5 seconds. Congratulations, you get nothing. But mega boxes and that sort of were the realm of the secondary market. Unfortunately, I know Michael at Diggers and a few other companies sort of try and get them in when they can. So they do have distributors in the States they still go through to get better pricing. But for the most part, you wouldn't go into your Kmart or your Big W or even Target here in Australia. You'd usually find just the sellers generally. You might find a blaster if you're really lucky, but very rarely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Those sorts of stores focused on like your Pokemon and stuff like that, because being a retail store in Australia, it was more, the kid's going to buy this anyway.
That makes sense.
Right.
So have you seen like the hobby maintain like its like fervor over there since like things have like kind of calmed down from COVID and card prices really aren't as like strong as they once were? Has it like calmed down like significantly, or is it still as hot as it was once during COVID?
Yeah, the prices again, they sort of in line with the US sort of pricing. So the normalization of the market sort of come in play, which is good for a lot of people who want to get back into the hobby. You got all the people who probably got fed up with the hobby. They're pumping and dumping towards the end of last year, of course. But I had a discussion with Michael the other day, and he says the same thing. Like the market's sort of normalizing. He's starting to see hobby boxes come down in price, which is not affecting him because now customers are buying those hobby boxes more regularly. So for us locally, we're actually getting a little bit more benefit of buying it. We're not losing that interest in the sports cards as much as probably what's happening in the States. A good one for us was, WWE Prism. I know you love your WWE, Anthony, and the price of that here in Australia got as high as I think about $1,800 for a box Australian. Now you can buy it for $500.
Burbank just had a hobby box of it on Black Friday for $199. I almost threw up in my mouth.
That's why I said to the message, I thought, can you buy me one?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Next time I'm in Cali, I'd be happy to.
A Prism, $199 for Prism.
Yeah, hobby box. Two guaranteed autos in there too.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Personally, I like the Chronicles. The Chronicles is nice.
Yeah, I love Chronicles is my favorite.
Oh, especially NASCAR for me is not my Chronicles. Yeah.
A little bit of everything in there, and you definitely always get like the players you're looking for too, which is a nice thing. They'll load it with the rookies and like the LeBron type guys that everybody wants.
Yep.
So yeah, it's definitely a collector friendly set. Mark has a question about the card scene there in Australia, and as you start to answer that, I just want to give everybody a reminder that March 25th we're having a big show here in Pittsburgh that Mark is actually the organizer of. So great resource when it comes to anything card shows. But this one, we actually he just announced Darrelle Revis is going to be there, which I know would be huge for you as a Jets fan, Michael.
Oh man, welcome to Revis Island.
That's what I'm saying. Like we were literally Steelers were, fun fact, one pick away from getting him when the Jets swooped in there and got him. I literally, me and Marty were texting back and forth like, dude, I think we're about to get Revis. And then next thing you know, the New York Jets select out of the University of Pittsburgh Darrelle Revis.
I tell you, Mark, he has to have his own table, and you need to get some like little blow up palm trees, man, and a sign.
That would be awesome.
Revis Island.
That would be really cool. That'd be a great little photo op that you could sell, like actual visit to Revis Island. That'd be super cool.
Yeah, in regards to Mark's question, like card shows, there's not many. Most of the card shows, if you could call them that, are a part of pop culture events or trade events. Mostly people selling pop vinyls or figurines and stuff like that, and you'll have a few guys trying to trade cards or sell cards. There is one big card show that generally happens once a year in each major city. So Sydney, Melbourne, Queensland, you'll have Brisbane. That's the hobby hangout. But we're only getting that once a year. So unlike the States, again, we don't have the sort of chance to go to once a month. We have to wait generally every six to 12 months for a big show. So, and look, at the same time, it's sort of not needed to be many big card shows like that. I know a few of the local communities are trying to put card shows together just to, allow trade days, but it's a bit of a hard one. Most of the people do trades on Facebook and that at the moment. So, which seems to be quite effective. Most people are quite happy, and the guys who run the channels are pretty good and strict on how the rules happen with there. But yeah, in regards to card shows, we get very minimal, unfortunately.
But how about the size? Are they a lot? There's a lot of tables. Because it's only happening so very infrequently. Is it a big promoted event to where a lot of people show, a lot of people have tables?
Yeah, we do get quite a few people turning up, like your big companies like the Cherry Collectibles. They turn up, and a few other the big businesses sort of get in there. But for a majority of it, it's going to be there's a lot of breakers who sort of buy tables and stuff like that. Unlike the States where you go to like your weekend ones and you'll have the local collector has his cards out. We don't see a lot of that. Most of the local guys will just take their little case along and they'll just sit in the corner and trade cards, which, again, one thing they do make use of, they do actually have a trade area with comfortable seating, so you can sit down there and work out some deals. I personally did a deal last time where I'd done it before the show, communicate with the guy online, interested in the card, we'll meet up, trade the cards, we're all happy. But it's not to the level that you see in the States. It's more of a very small card event, if anything. My mate, he's the reason I got me into cards. He just takes his little van along full of all the stuff he's got, and he'll sell it at the show. And it's usually the stuff he's collected over 20 odd years. So he's got some very high end stuff. He's got Kobe Bryants and stuff like that. But for the majority of it, it's very small vendors.
That's really cool.
And you mentioned the breaks.
Mm-hmm.
So are there enough established breakers in Australia where you can buy into breaks there, or do you have to? Because I got to believe it really would. I mean, it would be not make sense for you to get into a lot of breaks here when you figure if you'll get 5 or 6 cards and they got to try and ship them to you.
No. The thing is that the breakers in the States are pretty good generally. I try and deal with people like Hitman Breaks and Run Good Life. What they do, they actually hold the cards until there's a substantial amount to actually send, rather than $25, $30 just for 2 cards. They'll wait till there's a substantial amount, they'll send it to us. But there is quite a few local guys here. You got West Oz Cards, Benji. He does a phenomenal job with what he's got. Unfortunately, he hasn't got a storefront, so it's basically what he buys in that he can sort of put breaks together. But he also sells the stock through his website. Scotty Muzz, good bloke. He's actually down the south coast of New South Wales. He's like me, a 49ers fan. He runs regular breaks pretty much once every 3 to 4 days when time permits. He does only small breaks, so like maybe 1 case, maybe 2 cases if you're lucky. Then you got Carlos from Queensland, out of the box breaks. He does the same thing. He does maybe 1 or 2 hobby boxes, and they try to keep it affordable. That's a big thing, is they try and keep these things affordable for most people, so it doesn't take forever to sell out a break. But there's quite a few breakers here in Australia. Cherry Collectibles is probably one of the bigger ones. Again, they've got a large storefront as well and a lot of stock. Diggers, Michael does his breaks. Most of Michael's breaks at Diggers is NRL or AFL or cricket. He does probably maybe an NFL break and NBA breaks maybe once every 2 weeks, if not 3. But yeah, there's quite a few breakers here, So there's no shortage of getting into breaks. It's just how much money you've got to actually get into all of them.
Absolutely. So good question here by Orlando. He says, do most collectors collect only modern cards, or is there any interest in vintage?
Both. Like with the current market, it is, NBA's playing at the moment, the football's playing. Of course, modern's going to be the one thing that everyone wants to get. But there is a large respect and call for the vintage stuff too. So we do see a lot of people who still collect vintage. I myself, I love my vintage stuff. I love collecting Shaquille O'Neal rookie cards. You've seen them, Anthony. I'll send them over, and they're base cards. But the thing is, it's part of my childhood, so I love having those and having them protected. Back in the day when we were kids, we would use the football cards and flick them. We would have your good card and you'd flick the old ones up against the wall. Whoever got the closest to the wall gets a stack of cards. But for these sorts of things now, I personally don't look at them as investments. I look at them as just part of my childhood. Same as a lot of people like my mate Michael, who got into the card market again. A lot of it comes down to childhood memories. He's a big Star Wars fan. I'm a big Star Wars fan. Mm-hmm. Michael's probably got one of the biggest collections of Star Wars memorabilia and vintage toys as you'll know. And again,
awesome.
I now have some of that stuff too. So, and then luckily some of it's graded, some of it's not. But it's protected for the future.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If I pass away, my cat's going to get all the money. So,
hey, mine too. My cat's set up pretty well on my LeBron collection.
oh yeah, there you go.
I wonder if there's like a Guinness Book of World Record for like feline with the most baller sports card collection, because I would like to see whose cat would be better set up, mine or yours.
It'll definitely be yours because mine's NFL or NBL.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Sorry, MLB. Sorry. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
I got a lot of baseball. I've gotten right back into baseball. So I've got a fair bit of baseball and football. So yeah, in regards to basketball is just too expensive still even today. But I'm being smart. I'm buying the single cards I want. I'm getting my De'Aaron Foxes. I'm getting my Bagley Juniors. I'm getting my Halliburtons. I'll buy them separately.
Yep. I don't blame
too much in the breaks now.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. I mean, it's the just the mindset you have to have, and you have to go at collecting a little bit different because, you know, of the pricing structure and of trying to get something that you really like. It's not, you know, I mean, if there's something that I really like and it's here in the States, it's not that bad. It may be, you know, $3 or $4 for shipping, not for you though.
No. So if I was watching a card the other day on eBay, it was at $5.50 US. It was an autographed card of an old Kings player, but the shipping costs to Australia was like $26, and that's before taxes.
Yeah. I often will buy like certain LeBrons I'm looking for. Like, for example, these Spellbounds I'm trying to complete right now. Like, you think it wouldn't be like difficult to find graded copies of like a modern LeBron James card, but like, damn, it's tough to find like a 9 or higher in some of these Spellbound sets. So like, I've actually bought in 2 or 3 of the letters I've needed to complete certain sets from Australia, and each time it's like $25 to $30 in shipping you know, every time I do it. But again, if it's something that's so short printed, like, you're definitely going to pick it up regardless of where you are in the world. But I'm glad you brought up eBay, because I have a couple questions in regards to that. Now, a couple years ago, I actually had on the channel, their names are Brad and Jazz. They have a YouTube channel called Two Aussie Thrifters. And we were just kind of talking about like how popular eBay was in Australia. And back then they informed me that like, in the US, not so much for the hobby, but for just like resellable items in general, Amazon is like by way and a much like more of a powerhouse right now in the US. And I guess the thing we were kind of talking about, how like Amazon wasn't really that big of a platform in Australia then. Number one, is Amazon like making any footholds in Amazon or in Australia yet? But the second question is, how big is eBay over there? Like, is it still like super popular, especially with like buying cards? Like, is it preferred above like Facebook or like other buying platforms?
Amazon's definitely taking a foothold in Australia. Like people buy what they need, and Amazon offers that ability that they'll deliver within 48 hours or whatever. Strangely enough, the actual facility's up the road from me. So nice. I live in Western Sydney, so a lot of the stuff's here, and they put themselves out here because within the next 2 or 3 years, we'll have a major airport being built.
How long have they been there
from my house?
Has it been a while, or they've just recently been setting up some of these facilities out near you, like Amazon?
No, they've been here for I think 4 or 5 years now. So they've been here for a while. But in regards to eBay, like eBay is still very popular for the Australian market. But in recent times, Facebook Marketplace has become quite a strong thing because you don't get charged any money to use their facility, and you can negotiate with people rather than there's the bid or buy it now at this price. You can actually negotiate with a person, and 9 times out of 10, if they live locally, you go and meet them, and here's the cash and here's the product. Especially with all the trading sort of abilities on Facebook, you don't have to use Marketplace. Some of these people actually make Facebook pages that will allow you to trade, through Messenger or on the page. And that's why I think a lot of the sales are coming for sports cards at the moment is probably on the group pages. The group pages are sort of being more efficient and allows you better chances to negotiate with the price. And credit to the guys who run those pages. If it's over $50, you must have a comp that's sort of relevant within the last few weeks. So it's where Facebook, with regards to eBay, you just throw a price on there. The card I showed you earlier, there's a guy on there trying to sell it for, I think it's 7,000 US. He hasn't moved it in 3 months. If you sort of had that ability to negotiate the pricing, maybe you'd sell that card. But that's where Facebook, I think, is probably going to be a bit stronger at the moment than most. But eBay for, like, as you said, for the selling of motor vehicles and stuff like that, it's still quite strong here in Australia. Most people rely on it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. And you got the insurances too with eBay, because if the sale does fall through for whatever reason, eBay will make sure that you get covered. Facebook, on the other hand, it's all based on whether or not you got a customer you're dealing with is going to be trustworthy to pay for it, or that person's actually going to sell the car to you properly.
Gotcha. So one thing I wanted to touch base on as well is, for example, PSA grading cards. PSA doesn't have an office in Australia. So for you to be able to send a card into a company like PSA, you have to send it, I would imagine, to Japan. Is that correct? The closest one to you is the Japan office?
Directly to the States.
Okay, so you have to actually send directly to the States. Okay, so
we send directly to the States. So
okay.
when you card grading, it'd be the same as that. We'll be sending to you. Unfortunately, the costs attributed to sending to you were quite high. Like, I think the last lot of cards I sent to you for Arena Club was about $150 Australian to send to you, which was there within 5 days. But it's still quite pricey, and then for you to send it back to me is probably around about the same price. And that's where, like, a lot of us are starting to look at local card grading companies. There are not a lot here. There's about 11.
That's not bad. 11.
Yeah, that's more than I thought that they're.
I thought you were gonna say like there's like 3 or 4.
Yeah. No, there's quite a few here. Like there's a couple of sort of like your basic ones, but the one I'm working with at the moment, there we go. Anthony's put up there. Imperial card grading. Alexis is the gentleman I touch base with quite regularly there. I can't say much about them in any negative way. They are very, very approachable people. Alexis will allow you to come to the location to drop off your cards and even offer you a drink while you're waiting for your cards to be graded, because you can grade the cards on the spot if you like. I had 2 cards this morning before the show. I walked in, and within 20 minutes, his lovely wife had done the full inspection on the card, and I actually watched while they did it, and it's quite intense what they do. Just like what you're saying, Anthony, when you grade, you make sure you pay a lot of attention to the card details, front, back, corners, surface. Right there and then they had everything sort of done, the labels printed off and put straight into the slab. So I think 20 minutes total for 2 cards to be graded. I was very happy.
Did they charge you extra to do it that fast, or are they just like, hey, you're here, we'll take care of you now?
It was $40 Australian to be done on the spot.
Okay, so that's like $10 more than what they're asking regularly.
Yeah,
that's not bad at all. I give them $10 all day long, not to have to wait.
Yeah.
Especially if you give me a drink and let me relax. Heck yeah. Watch the process. Like, what card person that sends cards in to get graded wouldn't want to actually watch the process like that? That's super cool, man, that they let you do that.
Exactly. And you most of your companies will be like, you stay away from the room while we grade it for you. No, Alexis is like, come in, we'll have a chat, you can see what we're doing, and that's awesome. The other thing that I love about this company is they're actually doing pop vinyls too.
Nice. I think right now PSA is the only other like card grading company I would say that is currently doing that. Is that right? So that's going to set them way ahead of some of the other, I would say, card grading companies in comparison, that they're actually outside of just doing cards right now.
Yeah, and they're very smart as well.
Oh, look, Gary Payton signed. That's really cool.
Yep. It's still in the actual locations. I saw it this afternoon.
That's really $5. Little He-Man action.
Yep. But the quality of the slabs and that, they're very much the same slabs as what Arena's now using. it's just a solid slab, that beautiful thing, UV protected and all that sort of stuff that you expect it to be. And the cost is not attributed to all the money's going to be put to postage.
Well, they got packs too with the grade. That's
they're doing the packs.
This is a newer company, right? Like, didn't you say that they were reasonably new? Like, I've never seen a new company grade this many like different type of things. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah, it's sort of pretty much a year or so since they started up, maybe a little bit longer. It's just one of those things that there's quite a few companies here in Australia. As I said, about 11. This is one of them, but a lot of the other ones you look at, they're using the secondary market PSA slabs that are easy to crack and just don't look presentable at all. I'll get you an example here if I can find one. And presentation wise, they take a lot of care in presentation of their product. There we go.
That is awesome. You see what Mark says? He goes, "That's awesome. Watch your card getting graded and have a Foster's."
We don't drink Foster's in Australia, mate.
What? I thought Foster's was Australian for beer.
No, Foster's is the foreign beer, mate. That's the stuff we sell you guys.
What? So America's been lying to me all this time? Like, literally my entire life, I hear Foster's, Australian for beer.
No, VB, mate. Victorian bitter. For Queenslanders, 4X is probably our biggest beer. I used to work in the alcohol market, so 4X is probably the largest beer sold in Australia. And we have a joke that it's a Queensland beer. The reason why they call it 4X is because Queenslanders can't spell. All right. So 4X is probably the most popular beer, followed by VB. But yeah, Foster's is the beer we sold overseas. That's what we give to the Poms. We give them that beer, and they seem to love it.
Or it says, "I don't drink Iron City either." I get it, my man. That's one of the big beers brewed here in Pittsburgh is Iron City. Also Icy Light. There's a few beers brewed locally here. We have, I'm pretty sure Rolling Rock is in Latrobe, which is up the road. We have Yingling, which is local. I guess people here in Pennsylvania just like to drink and watch football. I guess that's the moral of the story.
Yingling's the oldest brewery in America.
Yep. I'll just show you presentation wise. This is what the boys, well, Alexis, make sure you get. You get a nice presentation box once you do 10 cards or more.
Nice chrome on it. That looks like one of them. Oh, it even opens up. I was gonna say it almost looks like
opens up.
Elite trainer boxes.
Foam inside, so you don't damage your cards, as in transport. And each card comes covered, so you can do your own reveals.
That's really cool. That's a nice touch.
Oops.
That is a cool card.
That's a sketch card, one of one.
Nice. Is that Star Wars?
That's Star Wars. That's from Masterworks.
Nice. What character is that?
That one's you're gonna make me think now. Oh crap.
Just read the front.
Zebrilius.
Nice. I wonder what they were thinking when they were grading that. Like, oh crap, now we have to look up and identify that card.
We actually talked about that beforehand. It's like this may not grade too well, but both the sketch cards are sent in.
Yeah.
Both got extremely good reviews. So both nice. Here's one for you, Anthony.
Oh, there we go. Is that O'Neill or is that Cabrian?
That's O'Neill, mate.
That's O'Neill with the autograph.
That looks really good.
Autograph, that's it.
Nice.
Sticker autograph, unfortunately, but hey, I'll take it.
So on the autos, did they just give you like the A for authentic? Because I noticed they did that on the Gary Payton pop on their website as well.
No, so that's the one thing that Alexis sort of pointed out, that he's happy to put grades on. So I asked for grades on my Brock Purdy's today. I didn't really care about it. I'm not too worried about the grades themselves. I just want it for my collection, and but he sort of tries to take care of the customers. So like this one here, the Brock Purdy Silver, which got pulled the other week. I'm going to do this. That only got an 8. All right. So I got that in a break the other day. Beautiful card, but again, watching you doing the grading that, Anthony, I'm now looking out for sort of the indications of what's damaged and that clearly has damage on the surface. But this is the one I pulled on Sunday. Brock Purdy red.
That's awesome.
So they got a 9. And again,
you pulled it on Sunday, and you're showing it in a reveal today on Tuesday.
Oh yeah,
just to show that speed. That's amazing.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, they told me the part of the problem was with the back of that card was the actual surface damage. The surface damage on that was probably what caused it to be less. And there you go. There's your pop vinyl.
That's awesome.
That's really signed by Mel Gibson.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And they've authenticated it because they actually have the license to authenticate the autographs. So cool. They've authenticated the autograph, made sure it's real, and just on the top, a nice bit of an etching too of the logo.
That's really nice.
That's a thick.
Are the pop cases sealed like the slab is?
Yep.
That was my exact
not the same way. They are actually not welded. They are actually epoxy closed because there's no way you can actually do a sonic seal like you do in the cards. So yeah, but they do a fantastic job. It's nice and chunky, so it's got a bit of heft to it.
Yeah.
But display wise, it's going to look fantastic on the shelf once I get the shelf up. So,
really cool.
But yeah, they do a fantastic job. And just one more, Anthony. That's the other O'Neill Cruise I got.
Oh, nice. That's beautiful, man.
5. And the beautiful thing about Panini, as much as I hate them with the football, because it's never game worn or used, this is actually game worn used material. So
that's awesome. It seems like they bring it a lot more with baseball, in my opinion, since it's unlicensed. Like I notice, like they'll be throwing tiger stripes in retail sometimes. It's insane.
Yeah.
That thing is gorgeous.
J-Rod, that's very, very nice.
J-Rod out of 5, you can't go wrong, and it got a 9.5. I was actually surprised by the score. So, and they put a lot of thought into the labels as well. Like the labels are really, really clean, well read, and just beautiful all around and simple. Like not like 15 different styles of font and stuff like that. It's just one font and really clean.
Yeah, do they do subgrades?
Sorry?
Yeah, it looks like they do have
subgrades.
Upgrades in regards to the time to do the job?
No, subgrades. Corners got
subgrades. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So the subgrades are on there.
Okay. Yeah. Now I see them. Yeah.
Yep.
I got it. Yeah. So, in the U.S., for whatever reason, PSA is looked at as the king, right? I mean,
Yep.
A 10 PSA 10 is oh my gosh, I got that. Everybody's so happy about it. Not comparing to the company, but in Australia, is there one grading company that is like, hey, if you get a high grade on their card, it's different than if you got that same card graded by another company?
At this present moment, probably not. What Alexis is trying to do is trying to become that company that people look at and saying, we grade for this reason, therefore the value should be attributed to that pricing. But unfortunately, like the market's still a little bit in its infancy. There's quite a few companies here in Australia have sort of popped up during COVID because they've seen PSA make a truckload of money. They've seen Beckett make a truckload of money. They've seen HGA pop up and go and become fairly successful in what they are. So let's go buy a press and let's do it ourselves, but the quality of the product they're putting out is not guaranteed to be good. Like, I know people talk about PSA, as you're saying, Michael, that the ends, always the best product, but they're not. Like a mate of mine, the one I was talking about before with the Star Wars collection, he sent in a stack of cards, and even on video chat, you look at the card and you're like, how did this card get a 5? There's no indentations. The corners are clean and crisp. Yeah, it might be some surface issue you don't see because it's in a slab now, but there's no way that could be that. Yet he's got another card that has clearly got issues on the corners and got a 9. And everybody's talked about it multiple times, how PSA just sort of never gets it right. But everybody sort of looks at them as being the benchmark. For me, the benchmark in the States was people like, TGT, now Arena Club, because you actually have access to the scans. Myself and Alexis were talking about this today. It's a lot of work doing that. A lot of time spent putting those images up and making sure the notations are there. But you're never going to find that with everybody, unfortunately. Especially PSA, they don't want to let you know why you graded that card. HGA, same thing. I had one of the first submissions going to the state. Yeah, they don't sort of reply back to you saying why your card graded this way.
I love that ICG did do that for you, like especially that one that you said you got an 8 because of the surface. The guy specifically was like, yeah, man, on the back here you have like X, Y, or Z. Like I thought that was super cool because I've never seen a company that doesn't advertise full transparency, being like, hey, man, here you go. This is exactly why. Like I thought that was.
Oh, I have. It's called TGT.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little partial to that one. I want to say a quick what's up to my guy Paul over there, Inside Shop. Just real quick, I want to show you guys there's a podcast on not YouTube, on Facebook that he's a part of called Off Centered. Every single Friday. It's super early. I want to say it's like 9 a.m. Eastern time. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Paul. But they have some like really interesting guests on here. They just had the guy that organizes the Burbank Card Show on their podcast. They're one of the guys that I want to get on with us, Michael, and collaborate because they have some like really awesome hobby knowledge that they're always dropping. But I just want to refer you guys to check them out if you haven't. They give out some really good information. And if you're curious about collecting cards abroad, that's literally what they discuss on a weekly basis. No problem, my friend. Well deserved. Guys put out a good product, and they have really good knowledge. They have a bunch of like OGs over there that really understand the hobby. So
that's what you need.
I enjoy the perspective, and the cool thing is they're bringing on like real collectors, like guys that run these we're talking about Facebook groups where people trade. They're interviewing the guys that run those Facebook groups, like the guys that are set up at shows, the guys that are doing X, Y, or Z. Nothing against like, some content creation in America has become so commercialized, you know what I mean? Where you'll basically make content for, like whomever for whatever reason. But like these guys genuinely they're instead of reaching out to the person who has clout, they're reaching out to like a person like you or me, who's just like a guy walking around the show that like is like the heartbeat of the community. You know what I mean? So and I'm not saying they're not reaching out to the people with clout too, because they 100% are. But one thing I admire about what they're doing is they're genuine collectors that are bringing on people who genuinely are passionate about collecting, which is kind of cool, my opinion. So,
and that's what it should be.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's another reason I was so excited to get you on, Dave, is because I know like one thing that like we connected on right away is we collect very similarly. Like we're both big PC guys, like where, you love your Niners and your Kings. I love my Steelers and my Cavs. We both like, the oddball type stuff as well. That was one thing that like, I think immediately we were just like kindred spirits when it came to that type of stuff. But, and honestly, I think Michael's that way too, because you got your big PC guys too, like Fred Lynn and your Mets and your Jets.
Yeah, I'm happy in that I'm not in the long run. It's kind of weird to not be a super fan of like the super expensive guys. I mean, you have LeBron and understand I mean, you think about it, in my lifetime, we haven't in the teams that I follow, we haven't had that guy who is potentially, up there as, the greatest of the greats in his sport. We would have had it, but we traded some of those guys away, and it's kind of hard. Once they get traded away, it's like, But I mean, so for me, it's kind of cool that I get to buy, a lot of $5 to $10 cards of the guys that I like to collect, because it's like now I get to buy like 15 cards and I'm less than $100 still because I'm buying $5 a piece.
And that's where it comes into my addiction of like terrible Cavaliers, like the Dylan Windlers of the world, and like Anderson Varejão's. Speaking of which, Varejão got a job in the office now, by the way. I'm super pumped up about it. But anyway, it's wonderful whenever you have PCs that are cheaper, you know what I mean, that aren't very valuable, and you can really load up on them, just like Paul's saying here about MJ, and then his value PC being Alonzo Mourning. You know what I mean? Like, I have binders full of like guys from the Cavaliers that'll never be worth anything, but for the most part, I haven't really sunk much money into them. You know what I mean? It might be like I'm paying $1 here in a bargain box, or maybe $2 or $3 here on eBay, you know, if you factor in shipping and stuff. So,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Big Z is definitely my guy too. I actually have a autographed slab of him over on my shelf, like right on the other side of the room. I love me some Big Z. Dr. Mantis, what is going on? Good to see you. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, Big Z is definitely one of my guys. He was like the Verjao before Verjao, because he was his but yeah, I 90s Cavaliers, like, or early 2000s are like my heartbeat of my PC. That, and like obviously like Pittsburgh Steelers, because they're the teams that I've grown up like loving, and like actually have like a sentimental attachment to those players, because they gave me a feeling as a kid, you know what I mean, where it's like, wow, this like gave me a feeling of like disbelief that this was like larger than life. You know what I mean? And you're not going to just get that out of like a random player unless like you've had that connection with them. So I think that's what's so awesome about being able to PC.
Yeah, I'm the same with Spud Webb.
Not sure why I'm frozen.
Because you're just so handsome, the camera can't keep up with you, bro. You know, you're a logo.
So, Dave, one of the things that I wanted to ask you was that, you know, when you're looking at NBA, you're looking at NFL, is there one brand per se that, if looked at, different than the others? Because, you know, like you have Panini, right? And you have, obviously, if you get like Donruss or Score, it's like, you know, we don't really talk about that stuff. But you get into Select and Prism. Is there like that hierarchy over there also?
Yeah, exactly the same. Like everybody loves the Prism except for me. Not a fan of Prism. It's just so many issues with it. But yeah, it's the same thing. Like people want Select, they want the Prism. You know, Mosaic sort of is looked at as like the poor man's, you know, silver cards. But I do like this year's design on the football. I think the design on this year's football looks a lot better than previous years. But yeah, you know, Spectra probably, you know, again, sort of locked in there with the Prism and that. But yeah, it's sort of the same hierarchy. It's one of the things that the Australian market sort of follows the American market in that sense. That, you know, if the prices are set on Prism, then that's what people want to buy. But unfortunately, a lot of the Prism and stuff like that's pretty much priced out of your regular guys' range. Myself, I don't mind getting Score on that. It's affordable, $250 Australian when it first comes out. You know, 4 autographs. How many products give you 4 autographs for that price? But yeah, it's sort of, it just follows the American trend, but basically.
Dom has a really good question. Is there an Australian national sense of pride for high-level athletes making it? Liam Hendricks, I want to say Grammy Lloyd. I could be destroying that.
Yeah, when it comes to the American sports, like when it comes to basketball, 100%. You know, people are loving the whole Josh Giddey, you know, flying the flag. You know, Dellavedova. You know, Patty Mills. There's a lot of national pride. Even to a certain extent, you know, some of the lesser known players do get a lot of recognition. Funnily enough, a lot of the players like your RJ Hamptons who played locally will have a good fan base as well, due to the fact that they played for local teams. Yeah, Luke Longley. Luke Longley's actually a part owner of the Sydney Kings here too. Simmons, yeah, he's sort of thereabouts. People love Simmons still, but he sort of upset a few people when it came to the Olympics, that he didn't want to play. But yeah, there's a lot of national pride for sports, especially Australia plays anybody. You know, tennis, NRL when we play the rugby league games. Yeah, Giddey is just on it. The kid is phenomenal, and there's more like him here in Australia, and that's the thing. And I think that's what the NBA's recognizing there's quite a lot of talent here that they need to invest in. With the future is probably looking very bright for the Australian basketball scene. And again, we were talking about before, Anthony, with any luck, you'll have access to the Topps, basketball cards next year.
That would be awesome.
Start collecting those and potential, Cavaliers players in those teams.
Absolutely. I'm all about that action. I mean, like, just going back, like we said in the beginning of the episode, the ability to get the LaMelo Ball card while he was playing there, like the price of like his Lithuanian autographs, like having the ability to get like an actual potentially licensed, card to his NBL or whatever it was team would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, had he'd stayed here for another year, we would have probably seen more stuff signed. Like, I know at the games he did sign for a lot of the fans, especially the kids. It's just a shame that he doesn't sign the redemptions for the people who have paid good money for those products.
Ain't that the truth?
But he's not the only one. There's quite a few players out there who are still not signing for whatever reason, even lesser known players. But yeah, it just it's going to be good for our sport here locally, and hopefully we may even have throwback cards coming into those sets, which may even have a possible Josh Giddey or Del Badova cards that will maybe autographed. So.
I hate when they don't sign them redemptions. Panini, I mean, I don't want to say just Panini, but like Topps has issues with getting redemptions filled too. But I feel like there's I don't know if maybe it's by sport. Like certain sports are harder to get guys to like give you the time of day to sign those or what it is. Well, but it just seems like there's a lot of guys that, like, for example, I'm pretty sure Ziggy said he's been waiting like multiple years on a Christian McCaffrey auto. And he was like 2017, I think.
Yeah, well, with the regards to Panini, I've got 6 outstanding, and now 7 because I got another one coming to me. But I've got Oscar Collios, who's a prospect for the White Sox from memory, and that's been in play for about 9 months now. And he's a prospect. Surely you can get an autograph off a prospect. And then Topps only recently hit it. I've got the Mike Trout, so. With any luck, Mike Trout will hit it, but like it's not even baseball season at the moment. So what's the hold up there? I can understand the NFL guys and the NBA guys because they are currently playing the season, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Like I know Marty's still waiting on a Ja, and granted, like he got drafted in 2019, but that's still like what, like 3, like almost like now 4 years ago. Like at some point they got to be able to like either redeem.
He's back.
Yeah, for now,
and we can see you now, which is wonderful.
I tell you one thing: if I could, if we ever had the opportunity to interview the head of redemptions for any of these companies, the only question I would want to ask is one thing simple: why are the cards not signed beforehand? You know what the card's going to look like because you have them in there. So if it's 1 out of 10, print freaking 10 of them and have them sitting there and get them all signed and then have them in your possession. Why are we waiting for the athlete to sign the card?
It's not a bad.
I've actually got a better question. Not for redemptions, but I've got a better question. Why is it high-end products all sticker autographs?
Yeah.
You're paying $2,000, $3,000 for a box and it's a sticker autograph. That's ridiculous.
Right.
Exactly, Paul. That is the question. Yeah, I mean that makes perfect sense. And like, if you are having all of these sticker autos, then why is it so difficult to fulfill those? Because you can literally send somebody like a document sheet, like the size of a manila folder, with hundreds of those things, and maybe even thousands of those things that they just spin through and jot down their signature. A lot of these guys are just doing initials now for the quickness. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to give them like all of this money, why not actually get, like you guys just said, up front the autograph?
Yeah, I just don't understand it.
Okay, come spend the day here at the office. We'll give you X thousands of dollars, and we leave with all the autographs, and you leave with all of the money.
Yeah.
What Panini and Topps have to invest in is actually get people in there to show these kids how to actually sign. Because I'm sick. Like, it's not even initials anymore. It's squiggles or a line.
I know.
Yeah.
You know.
I know.
Like,
That's
it
a
could
good
be
question,
anybody. Yeah.
I
Well,
would be
that's the
willing
other
to ask, but I doubt they'd be willing to answer.
Yeah. But that's the truth, though, is in that, like, I could understand, certain ones. But like you said, on high-end product, right? If you have a one-of-one immaculate, laundry tag type thing, why?
That's an auto.
That's just not nice showing that.
That's an auto. That's a proper auto.
Oh, and that's a Met
On
for you,
card
Mike.
too.
I know.
That's a boy. Big
That's-
meat.
That's an auto. That's what an auto should look like.
Right.
Yep.
Like I said, I can understand, certain things, but especially on like, to me, to 10 and below, there's no reason why that should not be on card. That makes zero sense. Like you said, you're spending the kind of money, I just don't understand it.
25 or below should be really the mark. Like 10 or below, yeah, but 25 below should be it, because that should be the shortest prints, and then it gets down to the 101. But even 101s, you sometimes get sticker autos. Like, why? Like, honestly, it's they're paying the players to do this. It's not like they're giving it out as charity. So, right. I know here in Australia with the redemptions, the actual redemptions are completed pretty quickly. So, but again, a smaller field of players to actually get off. But and the other thing is, like, I understand rookies not having game worn used jerseys. Let's just get rid of that. But second year players, I'm sick of seeing second year players not game worn used jerseys. They should have access to that stuff.
Yeah, make it so we actually.
Well, then it's funny when I forgot what it was, but I pulled one, and it was a blue. The patch was blue, but the team it was, and I forgot what team it was. They normally don't even wear blue. Like, the only blue they may wear is socks. I'm going, oh, so I got a sock relic? I mean, come on, man.
I'm just trying to remember who did the patch the other week when it was completely different team.
Just looking for that, actually. It was the Bailey Zapp with, like, the Dolphins patch.
That's right.
There was another one of Sauce Gardner from the Jets with, like, a Redskins logo, and it wasn't even the Washington football team or the Commanders. It was straight up, like, the actual, like, Redskin face.
Well, did you see the latest one with the Babe Ruth cut auto?
Yes, I did. They were trying to say that it was like the secretary.
George Brett. No. That one, they said no. Now there's one. It was I forgot what it came out of, but it's supposed to be a Babe Ruth cut auto, but the autograph is George Brett.
Oh yes. Yeah, I heard about that one.
It wasn't even Babe Ruth. Someone said, "Oh, George, yeah, I'll give him this one." No,
Yeah.
What do you mean?
That's wild. I've seen stuff like that with Panini mixing up autographs between LaMelo Ball and Mikal Bridges, because both of their autos are like MB. So, like, I've seen, I can't remember who did the video, but, like, guys have actually put out, like, videos of, like, look, this is a LaMelo Ball card with a Bridges auto on it, and here's a Bridges card with a LaMelo Ball auto on it.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting, as things go around. It's like, I wonder, David saying, as Fanatics gets more control, I wonder what the availability will become like for you over there, in Australia. Will it become, better? Will you be able to get Megas and Blasters where you can't get them now?
My immediate guess is yes. If Topps is going to go out of their way to make a set for a local, like, team there, I'm guessing that they want to, like, definitely get their tentacles into that area too, because Topps is owned by Fanatics now. So I would imagine that they definitely want to make a little bit bigger of a splash out there, especially with them not even being able to get, like, megas and stuff like that regularly. Like, I'm sure
they've already approached and to do tended for associated partners. So they've already already got that in place. They've already put those tenders out, so they've made sure that they're going to cover their bases, that they've got the supply chain ready to go, and how they go forward from that, we're not too sure. So again, speaking to Michael from Diggers, he's had discussions with them in regards to the future for supplying a store, and from what I understand, it's not going to be an issue for the Australian market. We may get more stock and have better access to pricing, more reasonable.
You know what's funny about Paul's comment here? You should be able to sue Panini for those type of mistakes. I mean, there's really no regulation for not just that, but like any form of hobby service right now. Like if like something is done wrong, like for example, Marty got that Luka Doncic with the busted corner, and it was just like,
oh yeah,
oh well, it's like should be a multiple $1,000 card. What do you mean? Oh well, like you need to do something to like make it right. But like, I think as a hobby, like there needs to be some kind of like regulatory body or something to like keep scamming down to a minimum. You know what I mean? But also make it to where like you can't completely like have like a stranglehold on like for example, some of the bigger distributors. Like there's no way like a guy like me or Michael have any way to compete with somebody like that right out the gate, because they have contracts, they have so much allocation. Like even somebody like that has a card shop for like X number of years, they still can't compete with some of like the bigger ones. You know what I mean? So like I feel like the hobby needs some kind of like regulatory body to like keep things fair, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think.
Unfortunately, it's not going to happen because you have to prove that the card was damaged in the first place when it went into the pack. It's come in the pack damaged. It could have been during transportation. Let's face it, we won't name company names, but some of the big delivery companies still screw up. The postal service screws up boxes. So who do you hold responsible for that? How do you know that they damaged it? How do you know they didn't damage it? It's going to be the hard thing. Like I work for a big box company, and again, I won't name names, but we actually do take care of our customers. We make sure that if something's damaged when it gets to them, we'll actually replace it for them. But in regards to this, it's been delivered and that, it comes as is. And I've seen boxes turn up at stores online that are completely destroyed, wet, it's been left in the rain. Unfortunately, you have to take that hit, the store then has to make that claim, But in regards to the pack being damaged inside the box, how do you prove it wasn't already damaged? Had it been shaken about by, the handler? You don't know. It's going to be hard to sue them and stuff like that. I know there's been class action talked about in regards to redemptions and stuff, but, like I'm a big follower. There's a local guy here who's quite well known in the States, Dan the Card Man. I watch a lot of his vlogs.
Yep.
He's a local boy. He's down the road from me pretty much. Even Sports Card Radio, I love watching them for just attacking the hell out of everybody. But they do have a lot of good information that the hobby needs to hear about. If you want to collect and invest, this is what you need to hear. If there are class actions happening, maybe you need to get a part of it.
Yep. Well, that was part of the thing when you're talking about the allocations. That remember was GTS. They had that whole thing where they were like, when you have these big distributors, and that's who you are going to, they have the ability to manipulate the market, because nothing says that if you send them 100 cases, they got to put all 100 up for sale. They put 75 up for sale, and they put 25 in the back. Mm-hmm. And then, when the cards aren't getting pulled, when the big cards aren't getting pulled, oh, now that case just went up more. Then all of a sudden there's less. Oh, the case goes up even more. So they were talking about how, they would purposely hold back cases to help manipulate the markets that they could make more money.
But the cards, they're getting pulled. They're getting to box yard breaks and stuff like that,
Yeah.
Part of the influencer boxes. So they're already getting pulled before we even get the boxes in our hands.
It is wild, man. Like, especially the stuff that came out with like being able to actually look at the codes and like track like where the kabooms are and stuff like that. Like, that people Panini know that. You know what I mean? Like, it would be very easy. Like, honestly, if I have a product and I want somebody to review it, I obviously want it to be favorable. Now, I'm not saying that they're doing that, but it would make sense if they were. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, wouldn't you want, like, if you're sending like a huge influencer, like a box, wouldn't you want it to be a banger so that the people watching it are like, oh, damn, I need to go rip that box? Because like me and Marty oftentimes will pull up other people like Hitman Rips or, you know, one of the other guys on YouTube that do a lot of like the pack openings, like 502 Frank. And before we even go buy the packs, because it's like, do I even want to rip this? Because am I going to feel like, for example, the set that really kills me is like Contenders Paper, where it's like literally the entire pack that you open in like a cello pack is nothing but base cards. Like that, unless it's a LeBron, I will not keep. Like even I won't keep it. And they call me tilapia because I take all the cards people don't want. You know what I mean? It's like literally you're paying $15 for a pack that if you get lucky enough to hit like a decent rookie, you might keep. You know what I mean? Like, so a lot of times I'll watch some of like the bigger guys that are like first to rip products to like kind of get a good idea. Like, should I even invest my money in, you know, X, Y, or Z? You know, because I've ripped so much stuff over the years, it just has lost value, you know, or I ripped it and it's like, wow, this pack sucked, you know, and it's not even that like, you know, I didn't pull something decent. It's just that like literally all of those type of packs suck. You know what I mean? Like the values.
What gets me though is that if you were going to send loaded boxes, and I don't know whether they do or don't, and I don't really care. Because you know what? Because I'm not buying a case of Immaculate. So it doesn't make a difference to me. But what I don't understand is this. If you were going to send them the loaded ones, why would you include all of the big hits? Because you would think that if all of a sudden the big hits are getting pulled, what's the reason for wanting to go and continue to buy and try and get a big hit?
Yeah, true.
Because you'll have the person who's in marketing going, you know what, we'll get the big hits in there, but people think there's other big hits to get it. So here's the money, take it. So it's sort of it's a worm on the hook, you know. Do you go for it? Do you not go for it? It's just one of those things, you know. But you're right. You're talking about how, like, you know, the vendors sort of holding onto stock just to jack prices up later if it goes up, you know. Again, one of the local companies here brings stock in themselves, and they say they've sold out of the pre-orders, but then all of a sudden the price jacks up by $80 a box. You know, we just recently had that happen with Illusions. It was Australian dollars, $460 odd a box. It's now $550, but they've still got the same allocation because they've already bought it. Yeah. So they're already cashing in. And I know some places are going to try and put the price up because Brock Purdy's available in the product. But if you look at the subsets, Brock Purdy's only available in one subset of all the autographs. So I think it's 15 subsets to get. So wow, good luck getting his Brock Purdy autograph.
Hopefully it's not like those Topps rookies that just never made it. But speaking of Purdy, I actually have a question for you in regard to him, because like currently just looking at the market, like his prices are like up there with Pickett and sometimes higher than Pickett. Do you feel like, as a 49ers fan, as somebody who watches a lot of their games and has probably seen more of Purdy than like most people, do you feel like he's going to like have a significant role beyond this year, like with the 49ers? Like because Trey Lance was number 3 overall, if I'm not mistaken. Like I would imagine they have a good bit invested in him as well. So
they gave up a lot to get him.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll just point out this.
Before the season, they were like basically saying that Lance was like the next Patrick Mahomes too. So like I know they're reasonably high on him. So that's why I was curious from like an actual fan perspective, like where you think they're going to go, Purdy versus Lance, and how you see both of those careers shaking out.
Look, I think Trey's got a very long career ahead of him, especially if he stays healthy. And look, he can take a leaf out of Joe Burrow's book. You know, Joe Burrow in the first rookie season hurt himself pretty badly. You know, strangely enough, 2 days before he got hurt, I actually pulled his rookie card out of 25. You know, $900 card. Next minute's $200. But you know, you look at Burrow today, like he's just taking the team from strength to strength. The team's built themselves a very, very good team. You know, Trey, I think, will have that future. I just don't know if he will be with the Niners in the future. I really think the Niners are going to put a lot of effort to keep Purdy as the number 1 QB next year. Mm-hmm. If he gets us to the big show, and even if he fails, I think he'll be the starting quarterback next year, because he's fit so well in with that team. as a third string quarterback, last pick, he's just absolutely gone from strength to strength. The team love him. They play well with him. Yes, there's a few games like the last 3 games have not been probably the cleanest games the Niners should have been playing. Cowboys could have won that game last week, or this week, I should say. But we just sort of stayed the course, and our defense is damn good. The offensive team is playing on another level some days, but I think next week will be a big test. But I can see Purdy being the starter next year for sure. Lance, whether or not he stays with the Niners, I'm not too sure. I have money that we'll probably find Jimmy G will probably be potentially. I'm potentially saying maybe Atlanta, but I doubt it. But more likely he'll end up at Las Vegas for Jimmy G.
But if you're the 49ers, do you think about you think about getting rid of both of Lance and Jimmy G rather than, let's say, trying to ship Lance out and keeping Jimmy G as a backup, as a proven backup?
If the Niners are smart, if they can keep all 3 QBs and keep them happy, keep them. I have a lot of respect for Jimmy G. I know he sort of crumbles under pressure, but he's still been a decent quarterback for our team. And once Lance got hurt, yes, he screwed up that first game he was back by stepping out of bounds to give the 3 points to the opposition. But I think Jimmy G is one of those guys that need to be there to sort of keep on mentoring these 2 guys. I hope Lance stays. I would love to see the Niners probably apply next year maybe a rotational roster where, hey, Jimmy's going to be better against this defensive team. And, maybe Trey would be better against this team. But just the way Brock's playing at the moment, he seems to be able to take on all of them. Like, I want to dub the kid the Legend Killer, because at the end of the day, he's taken on some of the best quarterbacks in the league, including Tom. Who goes up against Tom in their first season as a third-string quarterback and absolutely wipes the floor with him? Again, it's not just one player playing a game; it's the whole team. But for you to accomplish that, and nobody else has done that in the past, it sits well with a lot of people. But,
especially if you're Mr. Irrelevant. I've seen plenty of people giving him a Brady comparison already just because he was the last player taken. Now, Brady wasn't the last, but he was definitely in the 6th round.
Brady
is.
Yeah. I was going to make a reference to that being, everybody's saying, what's Brock's future? Well, Brock's future is that. If he can do this the first season, he could be the next Tom Brady. But I think listening to what Brock says when he talks, I don't think he's got the ego that some of these players do have as QBs. He just wants to enjoy his time at what he's doing. Go from one game to the next and hopefully impress each time. I think he'll be the future of the Niners. I think Trey could still be the future of the Niners, but again, if Brock continues playing like he is and gets better next year, who do you put money on? And I know Trey would not want to sit there as a second quarterback. He wants to play. Yeah. And there's a lot of spots opening up. Let's face it. If Tom does retire, which is highly likely, who takes on his spot? I think Trask should give it a go, but who knows?
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
what's going to happen with?
If we didn't have Pickett, I would take any 3 of your quarterbacks, because before we drafted him, I was literally out there clamoring, like, go get Jimmy G. He's like out there cheap. Like, get Jimmy G. Like, because I'd much rather have Jimmy G than, like, for example, a Trubisky or a Rudolph. You know what I mean? So if we wouldn't have ended up with like a Pickett or like a quarterback that we could build around, like, go and get a guy that's literally taken his team to the championship game like multiple times. Like, he doesn't have to be like a star. Like, we have a defense similar to you guys have a defense. Yeah. We have a good running back. We could use an offensive line, which we have a few guys that are all right, but for the most part, we have a very unseasoned offensive line, which is pretty much the weakness of the Steelers. But I mean, I could see a ton of teams like having interest. On the open market, do you think Trey Lance or Brock Purdy has more value? Like which one of them do you think nets like the Niners more of a haul as far as improvement?
If you get market trends right now, Brock Purdy is the most expensive player you're going to be trading for. People will pay big dollars for him based on what he's doing now. 12 straight games since he started, he's not lost one game. Yeah. So, do you put money on a winner or do you put money on somebody who could be a winner? Well, again, people are going to throw money at the winner. The big question for me is like, what's the Jets going to do next year? Is Zach going to stay?
Well, all the reports is that Zach is going to stay. That is definitely all the reports. But then again, you look at it, and they were talking about with Chicago, them having the first pick, and they have Justin Fields, and people go, hey, look, that pick is worth a crap ton of draft capital because they already have their quarterback. Yeah. Well, but then there are other people that go, hold on a second. If you think Bryce Young is, let's say, the guy, or C.J. Stroud, either one of those two. If you think either one of those two is better or has the long-term potential to be better than Justin Fields, you're better off picking them because also the other thing you got to realize, you reset the cap, right? Because you have more years of him on his rookie deal and stuff. So it's it is an interesting piece to the whole puzzle, but I think Zach is going to be there from everything they say right now. But the truth is, look, we all know they can say whatever the hell they want, But at the end of the day, if they go, you know what, it ain't going to work, him being here, you have to leave. I mean, the good thing for them is which is different than, let's say, San Francisco, is they sucked bad enough to have that pick. San Francisco had to trade up to get that pick. So there's a big difference there. Hey,
Omar, good to see you, man. Omar, it's a pleasure, brother. Always a pleasure to see your name in chat. Appreciate
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's a big difference, But the Jets, the Jets are they have some historical. I'm going to take ownership on it. We have some historical crap going on with that organization. Because think about it. If Wilson doesn't work out, that means you had a guy you picked number 2 overall. He didn't work out. You had a guy you picked 3 overall, and Sam Darnold, you couldn't think he would work out. Here's the other thing that a lot of people don't know about the Jets. Here's another little fun fact. If Quinnen Williams signs a deal, his second contract with the Jets, he will be the first-round pick in, I think, the last 12 years to get a second contract with the team.
That's saying a lot, man. Wow.
Yeah, that's saying, way more than just a lot.
That's just bad picks all around. Yeah. Well, the Steelers have been through several bad picks. We've had like the Mendenhall Swede years, but then we've also had like the TJ Watt years. So, but yeah, it's tough though. Like when your team perennially does that, unfortunately. Do you want Zach Wilson as your quarterback as a Jets fan, or do you want to see like somebody else come in? Like, do you think he still has potential to be good?
You see the flashes of certain things that he throws that he makes, and you go, huh? But then it's crazy because then you go, you're a professional. You how do you miss a guy with no one around him by 10 yards? How do you put it at his freaking feet? Like, what is going on? So he's one of those. It's one of those things. I don't know. It sucks if you see other guys doing better that they could have drafted. That's always the worst feeling. It's like when we drafted Sam Darnold, a few picks later, Josh Allen was picked.
Yeah, that's gonna make you sick, man. Like, because even I just mentioned Mendenhall. The pick after Mendenhall was CJ2K, Chris Johnson, like the awesome running back. Like it's like, and I could just see series of that stuff. Like just like when you guys got Darrelle Revis, it was literally one pick before us.
Yeah.
Here's a question for Mike. Would you trade Wilson for Wilson? Would you take Russell over Zach?
Oh hell no. No, I would not want Russell. No. Nope. No.
Just became a Giants fan.
And I don't care. I wouldn't care if Russell Wilson had the same contract that Zach Wilson has right now. No way. Definitely not with the contract that he has. But no, I just, man.
What's the Seahawks do next year? That's what I want to know.
What's he doing next year?
Seahawks.
I don't know. Gino has earned the right to get a shot. An ex-Jet.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely turned it around. Like I was actually surprised with how
he really sucked.
He really was not good for you guys. That's correct.
No.
Hey, no. Sacramento Kings picked Bagley over Luka.
True.
Yeah. Hell, Atlanta traded Luka.
This is Atlanta had though.
Yeah, like Paul says, Atlanta had Luka and then said, no, we'll take this guy.
Yeah. This is a rare instance though that I feel like it kind of worked out for both teams. Like I feel like the Rockets, would you be better with Michael Jordan? Any team would be better with Michael Jordan, but like Olajuwon, like that was like Shaquille O'Neal's idol. Like if that says anything, like growing up, like Shaquille was my guy, like even over Jordan. Like, I love Shaquille, but like Olajuwon was Shaquille's guy. You know what I mean? So like I've always had like a healthy like respect for Olajuwon because like basically my favorite guy was Olajuwon. So but yeah, I mean like just a pillar for that Houston Rockets team, man. Like when you think of Rockets, like literally the first person I think of is Olajuwon. Even to today, he's been retired forever now.
Yeah.
But then again, I grew up in like the 80s and 90s where like it was like Hakeem Olajuwon like running it.
Yeah, but at least Olajuwon delivered, and and Olajuwon went ahead and was a great player. Sam Bowie, on the other hand, that's the big one, right? Because it was Olajuwon, then Sam Bowie, and then Jordan. So at least Houston got something out of the dream. Portland got nothing out of Sam.
True. Very true.
Well, look at Portland. Portland, you talk about Portland, look at their luck. They passed, they went for Greg Oden over Kevin Durant.
Yep. The sad thing is though, I feel like Oden would have panned out if he stayed healthy. Like that guy he was an elite talent. He just didn't have the frame to last, which is like not saying anything because I know for a fact if I was in the league, I probably wouldn't last either. You know what I mean? Like those guys are bumping, even though like it's way lighter than it was back in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s as far as contact. Like I mean, you got grown men like the size of LeBron James, like literally running at your face to jam the ball. Like I'm sorry, like it's still got a lot of physicality to it. My guy, Three Beasts in the house. Good to see you, Chris. He says, too bad Brandon Roy didn't stay healthy. Yeah, Brandon Roy was really good back in the day, too. There's so many guys like that like really should have been like, so much more. They just couldn't like stay healthy or stay on the court or the field or whatnot.
Yeah.
It's a shame. Like one guy I think of that literally used to be one of my favorite players of all time in baseball is Kirby Puckett. How he got beamed with that ball and it like ended his career. Like I'm thinking, man, like how much better could a Kirby Puckett have been? Like what could his card prices be like if he actually played a full career? You know what I mean? Or guys like that like literally were just like cut down in their prime. That makes a lot of sense. Because Poku and Chet like had that exact same build.
Chet's going to be an interesting one if he can figure out because it's going to be weird because he is such a rail. I just don't. I don't know. I just wonder how he can survive. I mean, is he because is he a Sean Bradley type? He's probably more skilled, but Sean Bradley was basically the same type of frame.
Yeah. Paul makes a good point here. He says, do you think Wembanyama will bring more attention to the hobby? Not that it's not already getting attention, but I mean, from what I've heard from certain people, they think that he could be like Zion Mania all over again because he's like a very hyped prospect. From what I understand, he has his first ever card being printed in Sports Illustrated for kids. So if you're able to like find that Sports Illustrated for kid, I'm pretty sure that Marty told me that those cards are going for like $50 each. And that's like considerably more than those magazines are worth. So a little bit of a be on the lookout for item if you're by any of those like newsstands like Barnes and Noble or any of that stuff. Wembanyama's rookie card, his very first ever card, is a Sports Illustrated for kid. And if you think about like that in comparison, if he does become like the next big player, that's like going out and being able to get like in mint condition like a LeBron Sports Illustrated for kids like right now. Yeah. So I think he will bring some hype. Whether it gets to the point of like Zion Mania, like I think Zion Mania like was only as big as it is because of the pandemic. Like, not saying it wouldn't have been big anyway, but I feel like the pandemic like really fed into its growth. But yeah, I hope that Wembanyama brings on just as much excitement, because that just means that we're all making more money, when it comes down to it. I love Penny and T-Mac, like in my opinion, two of like the best basketball players of all time, and great examples too. Like both of those guys, truly elite. Like could have like at one point been arguably considered one of the best basketball players in the league. Now, granted, both. Well, T-Mac was more towards the end of Jordan, but Penny anyway was like right in Jordan's prime. But I mean, they were still considered to be some of the finest guards in the league. Says that's why I have so much faith in Sengun. Kid is built proper to do damage in the paint. Yeah, and that's really the thing, man. Like those big bodies, you know what I mean, that can bang around without like the appearance of banging around. It's like you're just a big clunky guy that you can like just clog up that lane and just take your presence, as opposed to like having to look like you're actually in there like fighting your way in or whatever. Where like these big guys that just naturally take that up. Are huge, especially whenever they're built like to where they can take a pounding from the other team too, with like picks and screens and stuff like that. I love the SI for kids cards. We actually went to the one there's one like right down the street from my house, and they are completely sold out. Barnes and Nobles, trying to find them. So I had a couple different spots trying to find them, but being that they resell for more than the actual book, obviously they're sold out in a lot of places.
So how many kids are buying them actually?
The Sports Illustrated for kids? I would imagine not very many kids. It's probably all adults like running around.
All middle-aged men.
Yeah. Yes, most likely.
Well, what's his name? The how do you pronounce his name again? The Wembanyama, whatever, him?
Wembanyama.
I mean, he could end up on the Rockets.
That would be huge for them. Could you imagine like that? They already have a really good young nucleus there in Houston. Can you imagine adding Wembanyama to that? That'd be nasty. I'm sure Omar wouldn't hate that. That'd be kind of like when we got Evan Mobley in Cleveland. Just made my day.
Yeah.
He says, "Don't
is the world upside down?" Like, seriously, is the world upside down when the Rockets are like 11 games won this season, and the Kings are 27 games win this year? Like, that's not right in the world. I'm a Kings fan. Don't get me wrong. It's just weird that the Rockets have got such a good team, but they're struggling really hard this season.
They just they're so young.
Yeah,
the Rockets are so young that and like Omar says is that's the thing.
Exactly.
It's great, but you just keep adding all these draft picks and stuff and all these young kids. What happens? It's like people talk about, OKC. What, they have like 7 first-round draft picks over the next few drafts? Well, that's great. But how many, so what are you going to do? You have your veteran on your team is going to be 23 years old. He's been here forever. He's been here forever. He's 23.
You know what I can see? Just like, Paul's saying that the Cavs have it on paper. I could see Houston having something very similar as the Cavs, like, because they have that young nucleus right now. Imagine they get like a Donovan Mitchell type player. It literally took the Cavs from being like a bottom team in the league to being a top team in the league, just getting that one, what I would consider superstar type player. You know what I mean? Like, so imagine if the Rockets end up landing like, another guy like caliber of like Tracy McGrady or somebody like a James Harden in his prime that can like carry them to actually competitive basketball with keeping the young nucleus intact that they already have. That'd be insane.
Yeah.
And with the lottery, the Pelicans are a few Lakers injuries away from being in the lottery. Because don't forget, they have the Lakers first-round pick, unprotected first-round pick this coming draft.
I would actually like to see that, Paul. KD to the Rockets. That'd be huge. KD, dare I say, KD would make them a team that would compete for a championship.
Nope.
Omar don't want him. Whenever you got the king of the Houston Rockets saying we don't want him, and he must be no good.
I thought, you can have Ben Simmons.
Oh my God, yeah, Ben Simmons is just like god awful, man. Like, what happened to him? He was like the darling of the hobby not too long ago.
Ego.
Was he? I mean, he's Australian, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't have a cool accent, though.
No, but I'm just wondering, like, what, or is he? Did he? Like, I've never followed him. I know he went to LSU for that short period of time, but was he here in high school in the States, or was he a big in high school over there and then just came here to college? Do you remember?
I can't remember. My mate Mick would be able to answer that one, but I think he went to school here, but went to the States for the college. So I'm not too sure. Because I know there's a lot of NBA scouts still come to Australia regardless, and now they're the NBA sort of academy here in Australia, which is set up quite well, and that's why we get LaMelo and that sort of being touted. But most recently, of course, Giddy. And now I know last season a lot of the regular players from here played in the summer league, and quite a few of those players got touted as potential players for the future. So, but I'm not too sure about Ben if he went to school here all his life. He may have done it over there too, but yeah. But yeah, there's quite a few people who love Ben still. My mate Mick is one of them. He's got a massive, Simmons collection. He even traded away some really top end cars to get a full collection of cars this other guy had. So, all graded PSA 10s. So he was happy with that. Yeah, Giddy is a extremely good player. Any team that got him was going to be very lucky. But again, we've got a lot more talent like that coming.
And that's awesome to see that the NBA is like almost building. I don't want to say recruitment centers, but like little subdivisions all over the world where they're mining for talent. Like, you look at Africa right now, like the talent that's coming from Africa, the talent that's coming from, these Slovakian, the way I look at it, like white dudes that don't talk English states, like the Luka Doncic's of the world, or like the Dirk Nowitzki's of the world, like those type of guys, like just the incredible talent that's coming from those parts of the world.
Joker.
God, yeah. How do I even miss the Joker, who's like won a few MVPs already? Like,
and the problem is when you look at Luka and you look at the Joker, and you would say there is no way they are two of the best basketball players in the world.
Yeah.
When you look at them and you look at their body shape and everything like that, and you go, and you have to be kidding me. When you watch Luka play, it's amazing in that he doesn't move fast. But yet, all of a sudden, he's open.
Yep. Look at Giannis. Look at Giannis' rookie years.
Mm-hmm.
True. And he bulked up, and what is he now? Phenomenal player.
Yeah, he's a beast now, man. He was like real lanky his rookie year. You know what? I honestly wonder, like, was he malnourished over there in Greece or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, why was he so skinny?
It's probably the diet more than
like,
anything.
it's a serious question though. Like whenever guys come, like obviously Greece isn't like third world or anything like that, but like was there something like they weren't feeding him the way they're feeding him in Milwaukee? Because I know for a fact, like when I was a ball boy for the Steelers, there were certain guys that came in underweight that they specifically fattened up, and there were other guys that came in overweight that they specifically like put on a diet regimen to get underweight. So I would imagine like Giannis coming in like right away, they were probably getting him in the gym, getting him lifted, trying to get him to get like pounds of muscle on him. You know,
dude, that cheese will put weight on you.
Yeah. Okay, so Paul says he was malnourished. You can see it in his Disney movie. That's really good to know.
Or that Omar, we got better steroids here.
We do have better steroids. That is very true. I mean, how do you think baseball became America's game? Steroids. Hit more home runs, guys. But yeah, I mean, it's super cool though to see them actually like looking in different parts of the world for talent, and you know, being able to find guys that are now learning basketball or learning baseball or football or like sports that aren't native to their land because of this. Like, for example, basketball, that's not like something that has always been like native or popular in Australia, right? It's just become more popular as the NBA has tried to add more of a presence, or is it something you have always kind of had your own type of thing going on there?
Basketball's been around for quite a few years. Like the NBA, like I'll go back to the early 90s, was quite big. Like when we had that sort of Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal sort of era, basketball became popular in Australia again, but it was always being played. There's always a national league here. And then, of course, once Jordan retired and, there's uncertainty of what the future is going to be, basketball sort of got put on the back burner. They still played the sport, but the local media didn't sort of coverage it at all, right? But with the last 5 years or so, with the advent of the sport becoming popular again in the States a lot more than it had been for a while, and then getting televised here and more people taking up the sport here locally for recreational fun, the sport itself reinvented itself with new owners and stuff like that, I believe, to become more popular again. They've actually televised the games a lot more better. And, having players like, again, LaMelo and that going to the States has helped get traction in the sport here locally and be more focused in the media. A lot of it is unfortunately on paid television, but, the sport's been around for quite a few years. It sort of hasn't just all of a sudden appeared. It's been around for at least 40 odd years. So just sort of has that ebbs and flows when it's popular, when it's not. And I think the future now of that sport, as long as they keep on doing what they're doing currently, it'll be popular still.
We had a question here from Paul. He was asking what we think of Kai Soto as a NBA prospect. So I'm not super familiar with him, if I'm being honest. I don't want to pretend like I am. So I actually just looked him up here. 7'2", 232 pounds. So he's got some good size to him. As far as like a NBA center goes.
Not too sure of him.
Let's see, Philippine, definitely one of the new breeds of big men. Heck, he's not even far from projected first pick Chet Holmgren when it comes to the way they play. So that's kind of cool. Like, so this guy is compared to Chet Holmgren. Again, I'm not super familiar with him, but it does look like he's playing for the G League Ignite currently, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, I'm not super familiar with him, but I'd love to hear more about him, Paul. I'll keep an eye on him though. Like, if I ever find any cards of him or whatnot, I'll set him aside for you. I'll actually probably pull some of them now that I know that he's good.
Well, he's playing here locally in Australia.
Oh, he plays locally in Australia right now?
Yeah, he's playing for the Adelaide 36ers. So,
oh yeah, nice.
He's actually playing here currently in Australia. So yeah, but I've not heard of his name. Like usually when I watch the games, I'm only concentrating on the Kings. A player for me, which is a very good player for our team, for instance, is Xavier Cooks, phenomenal player. Unfortunately, he just seems to get overlooked for going over the States and that. But that happens in every sport, unfortunately.
Gotcha. Hey, thanks. I appreciate you asking, man. Sorry we didn't know about it, but again, you guys are always welcome to ask questions, even if we may not know the answers. Always happy to ask Google about them. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing that knowledge, because I'm always looking for different guys like that aren't on my radar that I can pick up, and it's like, okay, so this guy is going to be somebody that people are looking for in the future.
You can't teach 7'2".
No, you really can't.
Nope.
Plenty of guys have had long careers because of that height.
Yeah. But basketball, it's becoming more, interesting with, as Omar says, that the NBA is pushing an international agenda. As you get, more of these international, players coming into the league, it's great because it opens up, markets in other areas where they may not have them. So from a collecting standpoint, it kind of, it can hurt us, because now all of a sudden, more people are hearing about these guys, and so, so again, prices go up and everything. I mean, that is what it is. That's what you want to have happen in reality, but it also, it can benefit us because, like you said, we'd never hear these guys before. So it's good that that we're getting to see the best players around the globe, come into the league.
Absolutely. Definitely it does showcase things. I just saw something was shared on Twitter by Adam Silver, who's the commissioner of the NBA. It looks like going forward, all Laker games will be globally broadcast, like all over the world, until LeBron hits that record of Kareem's. It's actually kind of cool. Wow. Like, just because we were talking about like international basketball at the moment, I just happened to notice that pop up on my other screen here that he just announced that all Lakers games are going to be global until he hits that record. Pretty awesome. Hopefully get a few more eyes on the sport.
Because what is he? He's what, less than 300 points behind him now, I think?
Yeah, he's like 200 some points last I checked. So, like, in my opinion, that's what, like, I'm terrible at math. That's probably like 5 or 6 games for him.
Yeah. Which is because at first they thought it would be like middle of February, but now, hell no.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally could be next week.
Honestly, I think what really helped him get there quicker was like
Anthony Davis getting hurt.
Yeah, literally, they've had nothing but LeBron. It's like, okay, we got LeBron and Kendrick Nunn going after you tonight. Well, not Kendrick Nunn anymore. No, they just traded for Rui Hachimura. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
It was Kendrick Nunn and 3 second-round picks for Rui. Which it'll be interesting to see where they play him. Like, because obviously with AD, I would imagine they'd probably play him at the 3 because he was mainly a power forward from what I understood. Yeah, I agree. Omar. I definitely think this season like is all about LeBron hitting that record at this point. Like there's really nowhere the Lakers are going to go, even if they make. That's true. Schroeder has been killing it for them. I went to the game versus the Hawks, and Schroeder like straight up diced Trae Young into pieces that game. It was insane to watch. So yeah, Schroeder is actually one of those players that you look at and you think, he's probably not all that great, but then you watch him play basketball and he's actually like a lot better than you think, in my opinion. Like that's the way I look at Dennis Schroeder, because like he's a guy that you'll pick up on 2K and it's like he's like but then like you actually watch him play basketball and the guy got some
another international guy, right? Germany, right?
Who's that, Rui? I'm pretty sure.
Schroeder.
Oh, Schroeder, yeah, he's German. Yep, and same with Rui too. He's from Japan, I believe, isn't he?
Yes.
Japanese or whatnot. I think he was the first Japanese-born NBA player. Pretty sure is what they said. But yeah,
that is definitely a trade that is very, very beneficial for the Lakers.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. I think Rui definitely has like a lot of potential yet. The Wizards are just so loaded at his position. You know what I mean? They like have guys for days that could play that. You know, going to the Lakers, especially an injury depleted team, playing with a guy like LeBron, who's a facilitator first, I think that that could do nothing but help him. You know what I mean? I think the main thing is going to be spacing and how they play all these players together. Steven Adams, that's a good question. I'm pretty sure he is
New Zealand.
He's from Australia?
No, New Zealand.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I could have sworn like New Zealand. Like, I was going to say it sounds Australian, but it's not.
No, he's a Kiwi. He's a Kiwi.
So, from an Australian perspective, is that a bad thing or a good thing?
Completely.
Well, it's a rivalry. It's like you know, it's like anything. You have a very, very good little rivalry. So the Kiwis live across the ditch, and but yeah, they're extremely good over there. You know, like we have that sort of love-hate relationship, but it's the same with New South Wales, where I live, and New South Wales with Victoria, love-hate relationship. Yeah, no, I've got a lot of time for Steve Adams.
So it's like a USA-Canada thing.
Probably. Yeah, but probably a little bit more stepped up than that. Whenever our two football teams play together or basketball teams, yeah, it's pretty much gloves off.
So it's like Steelers and Ravens.
Yeah. But yeah. Here's a question for you, Anthony. Just something that's close to your heart. WWE. What do you think is going to happen with this sale?
Man, I don't know. That's an interesting one. I definitely think with it being sold, it's going to get a little more corporately structured. You know what I mean? Like a lot of like the Vince McMahon, like behind the scenes, like scandalous stuff would probably have to be, either completely absent or kept to a bare minimum. You know what I mean? Like just like being a part of like several like indie locker rooms and just like the type of stuff that happens there. You know what I mean? Like knowing the type of characters that they actually have in their locker rooms can get pretty wild at times. So I would imagine that alone like would probably have them put in like a lot more structure and stuff. But
the real question is what happens if it gets sold to the Saudi Arabian consortium?
Honestly,
that's going to be a tough one.
I think there's going to be a lot of people in the States that are like turned off by that. But by the same point, I think the people that like wrestling are going to keep watching either way. If anything,
it's no different than the golf. I don't think a lot of people who really like golf turned away. I mean, from the Live Tour. I just wonder from a standpoint of what do the women think?
Yeah.
What would the women of the WWE think if the ownership of their group is,
Yeah, but you've also got the likelihood of Sami Zayn walking away because he will not work or wrestle for the Saudis. Which means Kevin Owens will more than likely walk.
They can all go here. Which would probably be what happens, I would imagine. Like if the Saudis do fully take over WWE, I would imagine AEW becomes even more of a player if that's the case.
Omar, hey, thanks for stopping in, sir.
See you, mate. Have a good one.
Appreciate you being here, brother. You have a good night.
I'm just curious. I wonder personally, would the Khans make a play?
They're going to, supposedly.
I would if I was them. If they have that kind of money, why not?
Yeah. It's not like they don't have the money.
Yeah. Sell the Jaguars and buy WWE.
But the funny, he don't need to do that because he owns a Premier League team too, I think.
Yeah. They own all kinds of stuff, man. They're very wealthy people.
I don't know. I just, I don't know. It's very odd. I think the big thing is I don't think it's the sale. I mean, you think when you look at Vince, you look at how old he is and stuff like that, and him, being as egotistical as he is, he thinks that there's probably nobody around him that he thinks is worthy of, being the majority owner and all that kind of stuff. So let me go ahead and sell. I just wonder what it would be like to Anthony's thing, thing like he said before. I mean, you remember, World Championship Wrestling and all that kind of stuff, what it was like. And then Ted Turner got involved. And then when it was okay, but then when he sold it off to AOL Time Warner, I mean, it just it became different because it was a more corporate.
Yep.
And like you said, things things have to be, done differently at that level, because now you have more, I mean, when you think about it from a standpoint of it's public, but he's the largest owner. But the way it is, if all of a sudden now you go to a bigger company that buys it, now you're part of a portfolio, and people want to, to do things. I was interested because I heard that Comcast was looking at it.
Oh wow! Yeah,
which makes sense.
I would be shocked
because Comcast has, Comcast is NBC, Peacock, USA. Now, what would happen with SmackDown? But they own all that other stuff to begin with, so they already have the rights to broadcast it.
Mm-hmm. Here's a curveball for you.
If I'm Vince, I'm probably going to cash out too, especially if I can get my kids nice jobs, still staying there, being a part of it.
Here's a curveball for you. What? Disney buys it.
That would actually be pretty huge. Could you imagine Disney putting on like wrestling shows at the park? Like, sign me up for that. Like, I will get a season. I will get an annual pass tomorrow if they start.
You'll be the kids red.
Yeah, I'll be moving back to California if that's the case, or to Florida, or wherever the heck it is. It probably would be Orlando because that's where their
they already have the training center there.
Yeah. Could you imagine like if they were to do like a park out of the training center where you can go and like watch them like train?
Dude, I don't
interact with people
no.
Every female champion becomes a Disney princess.
I don't want to see Mickey Mouse in a singlet jumping off the top rope. No,
I kind of do. No. I want to see him coming right down on Donald's quacker.
Every female women's champion will be a Disney princess. That's what will happen.
That would be amazing. Like, somebody needs to book that right now. Like Vince McMahon, make it happen.
That's true. WCW was doing some filming on a Disney lot on Saturday nights. So they have been in the business. I don't know. The sale is, like I said, it's very interesting. I think, like, I don't know, like, why? That's what I want to know. I mean, I know it's more popular right now than it ever was. I don't know. Is he concerned about AEW, which I wouldn't think he would be? But like, why? Why? I mean, unless it's an age thing, unless he's just at the age where he says, "Hey, you know what? I want to just get my money and go."
You said it just then. It's more popular than it's ever been. So the monetary value of the product is substantially higher than if it was 2 years ago. So sell it, get the best out of it. I just feel for people like Triple H and Stephanie, who sort of built the company up to what it is now in the last 12 months. Because they've really turned the business around since he left, and now he's back. And
yeah, I don't blame him there, Paul. Like, he just wants to retire and enjoy his billions. I would too if I was him personally. But here's the other thing that we don't even consider. Like, Vince McMahon could literally tomorrow be like, oh, okay, I'm super rich. I'll just start, another wrestling company doing X, Y, and Z. Like, he could very easily just, start something else and be successful. Like, granted, I don't know what's going to be in the contracts with the Saudis or whatnot, but just like his lineage and like the people that he would have access to, like being in this business for so long, like, look at how good, like, with the money that the Khans have, AEW became so fast. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. Like, with certain businesses, it's almost like if you have the money to pay to play, you can be successful, I think. Like, especially if you have the experience of one Vince McMahon. Like, he's done a lot wrong, but he's done a lot really good to be as successful as he's been.
WWF was a regional thing that was only basically in New York, right? I mean, and they had basically, when I was growing up, back in the 70s, we would go. My dad would take me, my buddy Sean, my buddy Joe. The four of us would get in my dad's Datsun D210, and we drive to Nassau Coliseum every other month because they'd have one show in Madison Square Garden and they'd have one show in the Nassau Coliseum. And that's what it was. And then it started to go a little bit more, went into New Jersey and hit Newark and stuff like that, everything. But you look at what he has done. He took it from, it was an NWA, it was, an ECW, it was, mid, OVW type of thing. And all of a sudden, he did he brought it to what it is. I just wonder from a standpoint of if it goes to a corporation. I mean, if it goes to a corporation, I think a lot of things change. If you're the Khans, you don't want the Saudi, people buying it because you've seen what they've done with golf. Hey, we'll give you $100 million to come here. Why wouldn't they all of a sudden start offering? Why wouldn't they turn around to Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks and go, hey, give you $50 million right now. Come on over. You know what I'm saying? So if you're the Khans, you don't want the Saudis. You probably don't even want Dubai. You'd rather have a corporation in the U.S. buy it. Right? You'd rather have Comcast or something like that buy it because you go, great, go right ahead.
Yep, absolutely. Now, what do you think the interest level is on WWE's behalf selling to the Saudis? Do you think that it's something that they're 100% like considering moving the brand over there? Do you think that it's something where they're kind of just using that as leverage to try to get more money out of somebody on the American side?
Well, Saudis are looking for businesses and that to sort of, give them something for the future because the oil's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
Sure. So it's sort of, they've been doing it for you look at the Formula One and at the golf and stuff like that. They're just trying to make sure that they've got a future outside of the oil fields, So
Paul makes a good thing. Paul makes a good point in his thing, but I think you're right, Dave. I think you're looking at it from that perspective.
Yeah. Because it's all about, you look at Ferrari World, the amount of money they pumped into Ferrari World in Dubai, I think it is. It's amazing they've done that. There's no Disneyland or that there yet, but that's what they're looking for the future. They want to make sure that they shore up the future for their country once the oils and wells are dried completely up. Because let's face it, you got places like Russia and even Australia and that where there's oil fields starting to get discovered again. And there's been untapped for years. So the Saudi oil is not going to last. Same with Dubai and Bahrain and that. So they've got to look for how do we build the future, Well,
let me ask you, do you think how much of getting into golf or if you're getting into, getting with Ferrari, getting with, let's say WWE, how much of it could have to do with the image they want to portray? That they're not, just a, blood, money, oil, hungry, type thing that they are, I mean, I don't know. I'm just wondering, do they kind of shift some of the thing of, oh, look, they're in, golf. Golf's a gentleman's game. Oh, look, they're in, wrestling. It's it's sports entertainment. Professional wrestling. I don't know.
They're still catering to men in those big things they're getting into as well. Like, you figure Ferrari, golf, and wrestling. It's all stuff dudes like. Like, if you had a YouTube channel, you'd have like statistics like mine as far as like men to women ratios. But I mean, they're not really forward thinking with women either. You know what I mean? Like, it's just in the past few years, women were actually able to even compete there. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of develop it. But from what I'm seeing, they're kind of trying to make it more of like a destination type place, like with the type of stuff that they're bringing in, like the golf, the wrestling. Like, imagine if WrestleMania is held there every year and like fans from all over the world have to go to Saudi Arabia to attend WrestleMania. Not saying that would be the case, but like if they bought it and made it that case, people would then have to go there to partake of WrestleMania if you want to see it live.
You have a choice. You have a choice. You don't have to go.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch it on, and let's face it, like a majority of the sports here in Australia, the football, if you watch some of the sports here in Australia, the stadium's probably 1/3 full. Okay. Now,
Really?
yeah. Because where the money is not in the actual game at the event. The money's in the televised rights. And that's where McMahon made a lot of money, the televised rights. And that's the same thing with the Saudis. So they could wrestle in Saudi Arabia. They could wrestle in Dubai and not have anybody turn up. They'll have the locals turn up, but the money's going to be in that televised rights because you have a global contract that you're signing with somebody with millions, if not billions of dollars. It's the same with the NFL. The basketball, how much are their contracts globally worth? You know, the stadiums and that will make money, but they're probably not taking any money from the ticket sales. All the money's coming from the licensing agreements plus the televised rights, as usual with most big sports these days. You know, look at Formula One. Formula One has a lot of people turn up to the venue, but the money goes back into the local economy, not the sport itself. The sport gets paid to appear at those venues. All right, some extravagant amount of money gets thrown at this sport every year to go and race in Melbourne or Las Vegas this year will be. But the televised rights is worth billions of dollars every year. So
Really?
they don't have to have people turning up.
It's interesting. Yeah, that makes
I know
sense.
when the women wrestle in the WWE, they basically have to be they don't get to wear the outfits they wear on Monday night or Friday night.
This past time, they finally started decorating the outfits. Before it was like freaking turtlenecks and like long pants. You know what I mean? Right. They look like karate pants that they were wrestling in, like full like attire. You know what I mean? Like no skins allowed out. Like I'm surprised like some of them were allowed to let hair out. But
you'll find if it does happen, they will not have a women's division. The women's division will be basically AEW will take that on for sure. But and they'll have a great roster. Like they've got Ruby Riott over there at the moment. You know, you got Brett Baker, Anthony's other girlfriend.
Don't tell Adam Cole or my current girlfriend.
and the Bunny, like you've got a very good roster already at AEW, and like you add people like Ronda Rousey or Charlotte Flair into that roster, it's just going to be a massive roster. I can't see them wrestling for the Saudi. You know, out of principle, they would, even if money was offered. Why would you go and wrestle there when you're going to have to wrestle under very, very strict restrictions? And they're probably going to make it like a comedy act more than a wrestling match. You know, the female wrestling today is as good as it's ever been. It's competitive. It's under, you know, it's you know, well rehearsed the whole lot. You know, and you know, again, you're going to have a lot of the wrestlers who currently wrestle AEW or WWE who will not want to work for, you know, whoever for whatever reason, for religious reasons or background. You know, they won't want to wrestle over there. You know, again, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn will probably be two of them. And I know recently that Roman Reigns has talked out about it.
Yeah, really? I didn't hear about that. Oh, wow.
He said something the other day about the potential sale. So, you know, read into it what you want. But, you know, you're going to have these top marquee wrestlers who, you know, do they want to go? Probably not, you know.
And I think that's where you look at from a standpoint of is that, at least for now, Tony Khan has the ability to at least pay them well to make them not go.
And give them less of a schedule too, like where they don't have to do like all of the crazy things WWE basically has their talent do. You know, like
and the other thing is if they do base themselves in Saudi Arabia, which I don't think they ever will, but let's say they base themselves in Saudi Arabia, how many of these wrestlers want to move their families to live there?
True. I wouldn't.
That's
like, especially like my girlfriend. Like I don't even know that I'd want to take her on a vacation to Saudi Arabia. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But that's the sort of question you've got to ask yourself: is a what if? You know, I don't think they will ever transfer to Saudi Arabia to wrestle there. They may do events like they're currently doing, and that's the reason why Vince has pushed that whole re-wrestle there at certain events to try and get more interest in the sport for the local investors. But the wrestlers themselves will still want to be at home in the States or Canada. You know, and let's face it, the international roster is not that big. You know, your predominantly wrestling community in the States is American, Canadian, Mexican. A few New Zealanders, few Australians, few from people from UK and other parts of the world, but predominantly that's your core base of wrestlers. So I don't think that's going to be moved. Even if they bought them out, it'll still be based in the States, but they'll probably wrestle more shows in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, places like that, to make more of an impact over there.
Nice.
But I think a lot of these people are going to have their morals sort of tested if it does happen. And again, the American audience will also vote with viewership. At the end of the day.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, EB in the house.
There he is. My guy OJ's here. Appreciate you being here, man. He's a really awesome guy. We're actually doing a collaboration with him currently, myself and Michael, as far as giving away 3 TGT slabs in his Facebook group. So basically, it's just like Earth Ballers. OJ, if you could, you are a moderator now on the channel. Drop a link to your Facebook group. But I am real quick before we're done with the live, I am going to do a giveaway to the first person who got a slab. Next week when we're on Michael's channel, we'll give away a second slab, and then the following week we're going to give away one in the Facebook group to just people who are subscribed to us or a part of the Facebook group. That's literally all you have to do to entered in the giveaway. So yeah, it's just for fun, just something we wanted to do to help out OJ with the group, but also give back to people because that's what we like to do.
And worldwide shipping available.
Yes, absolutely. Regardless of where you're at, because I know that there's a lot of overseas people in the group currently. So everybody is available for this. Just looking for my giveaway link. OJ sent me a link the other day.
The next live will be next Wednesday on my channel. And for those that are interested or really in, the guest we're having on next week is a guy who sells full-time sports cards on eBay. On eBay. Oh my God, on eBay. On eBay, that he makes his living. Tony, Anthony and I were talking about it before. He made a post like over the weekend. He made a post on Monday morning that he had 247 orders from the weekend of selling sports cards, and he's a volume guy. So we're having him on the show to be able to show people and basically like tell his story, of how he decided to do it and what his process is, because he I don't even know how many listings he's up to, but it's tens of thousands, and it's awesome.
So I believe the specific card given away right now is going to be a Kevin Porter Jr. It's a 9.5 TGT slab. I actually think I have it right here. Let me show you guys. So the way that OJ has this structured is I'll be giving away the Kevin Porter Jr. right now. It is a 2019-20 Contenders rookie card in a 9.5 graded by TGT. Then next week we're going to have either Jaren Jackson or Poku Shesky given away, and then the other week will be whatever one doesn't get given away. So as you guys can see, we have the wheel here. So these are all of the people that have done all 3 of the things that we asked for. OJ was kind enough to make this list for me. So I'm going to click the thing, and whoever's name is comes up here is going to win the Kevin Porter Jr. I'm actually going to write that down real quick too, so I don't forget who it is. So I'm going to go ahead and click enter. And again, we're going to do this again next week on Michael's channel. So make sure you subscribe over to Huddle Card Collection. There we go. Adjong Adriano. Thank you so much for entering. Really appreciate you. And I'm sure OJ will alert you if you're not watching that you have won the Kevin Porter Jr. slab. Congratulations. Thank you so much for being a subscriber here on Michael's channel and to OJ's group. Really appreciate you. And again, next week, we're going to do this again, and it's going to have more names of people who have entered since then. So Let me drop a quick link to OJ's group because it has all the information about the actual giveaway there. In case you want to enter to be in next week and you haven't. Here is the link. I'm going to drop it in the chat for you guys.
So with the whole thing, I just saw when you brought up the page about the Lakers. So I'm assuming that means all the associations that the NBA has with the different countries, like with the different contracts and stuff like that, to air.
Yeah. That's exactly what they were saying, like globally. So like everywhere that they can like send Laker games, that's the game they're sending. So like if Turkey would normally get like say the Kings or whoever, they're going to be getting Lakers now because of the history being made. Hey, you're welcome.
Did they announce what they're going to do for the US?
I mean, no. I mean, all I saw here. I'll reshare the link that I saw that was shared.
Because I know here, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I think is TNT. Wednesday and I think Friday is ESPN. But then I know they have NBA TV. But NBA TV, you have to have a certain level of cable to get NBA TV.
Yeah, it's definitely an upgrade on NBA TV. I personally get it just because I don't get the Cavs. So in the off chance that there's any form of anything I can catch Cleveland on NBA TV, I try to get it because I'm in a weird spot. Whereas Cavs play on Fox Sports Ohio. We get Fox Sports Pittsburgh here. But according to our cable carrier, we are in the Cavs network, but they don't give us any of the channels, which sucks. And then if I try to sign up for the League Pass, I get every team but the Cavs because I'm in their network.
Blackout zone?
Yep. So I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. Which sucks. Most of my Cavs games I watch, they're it's not a specific YouTube channel, but sometimes if you look up full game highlights, you can literally see every single scoring or turnover play, just one after another. You see the entire game in 10 minutes. I watch almost every single Cavs game that way because it's so difficult to actually get their televised games in Pittsburgh.
That's how I watch most of the NFL games.
Yeah.
Just to catch up.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I appreciate that, Paul. Yeah, any of you guys want to follow us over on IG, feel free. You can always DM us there if you have questions about anything. We're very easy to reach. But I definitely appreciate everyone who's come out tonight. Is there anything that you'd like to share, Dave, before we start to wrap it up? I know we've gone a little over time, and I appreciate you being so patient with us.
No, it's day off today, so it's fine. The actual thing I want to ask is, what's your picks for this week?
What's my picks? Okay, so I'm going Bengals for the AFC game, and I'm going your Niners for the NFC game. I think the Super Bowl is going to be Bengals versus Niners, and I think Joe Cole is going to just squeak it out. And that's only because Purdy's a rookie. That's the only reason I say that. Because your team is all around probably a little bit better, but I think when it comes down to it, if it's Burrow versus Purdy, I think Burrow's going to get the win. Almost whenever it was Mahomes versus Brady, and Brady kind of took the edge with the experience, and he's been to the big game before, stuff like that. So that's the only reason I'm picking the Bengals. It hurts me as a Steeler fan to say the Bengals are going to not only go to the Super Bowl but win it. I'd be very happy to see Patrick Mahomes win this game on Sunday and send the Bengals home where they belong without any Super Bowls. But I mean, I'm just so big on Joe Burrow. You know what I mean? There's just something about him. He has that intangible that he's just a winner. He's just clutch. You know what I mean? And it's so hard to teach clutchness, especially on such a big scale like Burrow. Typically shows up big. That's my pick. I don't know where you guys kind of think the rest of the playoffs are going or who's winning this week. KC, what is up? Good to see you. Appreciate you being here.
Hey, KC. For me, I'm I think the 49ers are going to get. I don't know. I think the 49ers are getting it done. To me, that is really a pick 'em game. Because
it's like literally all four teams could any one of them could be the champion.
I don't know. I mean, I like the 49ers. I think they can get there, but I wouldn't be surprised with Philadelphia, coming out, depending on how truly healthy Jalen Hurts is. And I think the other game's the exact same way. I think if Mahomes was not hurt at all, I think KC actually beats them. I think KC is a different team. I think they're more well-rounded this year and stuff. And they're running the ball better and everything. And I think they have a better chance, about that. My whole thing that I'm curious about is what are the cheap-ass Bengals going to do with Joe Burrow?
I don't know, man. I mean, being that they have Chase too, I think that's good for them long term, and being that they're actually being competitive, it's also good for them long term. But does Joe Burrow want to stay in Cincinnati long term is the question, because
he said he does, but is he going to pull Tom Brady? Is he going to be like Tom Brady and say, you know what, I don't have to make all the money to keep the team around me?
It's a good question.
What do you think, Dave? What about your picks, and what do you think?
Well, look, I agree with you. The only way QBs can have a team like that would be to take that pay cut like Brady, which is a smart option. But yeah, for me, look, AFC, I'm going to go with Bengals. I think with Mahomes' injury, he's a bit of a target for anybody wanting to sack him.
Yep.
And if they do aggravate it even worse than what he currently is, then yeah. And I think, Joe's record against Mahomes is pretty damn good. So that's going to be definitely, I think, Bengals in favor for that one. But I'm actually going to go, I don't think the Niners can do it against the Eagles. We just played too scrappy of football the last 3 or 4 games. We only just got in there to win. We could have lost to the Cowboys last week, It was just such a scrappy game, Could have gone either way very quickly. And look, I think Hurts has really proved a lot of people wrong this year. That team has, So I would love to see, just as a football fan, not a Niners fan, a football fan, I'd love to see Hurts up against Burrow. 2 2020 quarterbacks. I think that's going to be a phenomenal matchup between those two teams, especially if they're both healthy. Again,
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'd love to see the Niners there. But I think Niners, if we don't get through this year, it will be next year for us for sure. Especially with the people we've got there, the players we've got there. McCaffrey's there now, and he's loving the fact he's at the Niners. Bosa's playing off his mind. How many sacks this year has he got? He's destroyed it.
Crazy.
Kittle's happy. As long as Kittle's happy, everybody's happy. Debo's got his new contract. He's happy. So I think we've got a good team for the future, but I think we might just lose it because the Eagles are just playing so well. Even with that 1 week off, they've played well.
Yeah, and it's funny when you think about that. Yeah.
Super Bowl, I'm going to flip a coin next week. I just don't know who the hell can win.
I agree. Your take on it of if it's the Eagles against the Bengals. The other thing is you look at it from a standpoint. You mentioned the quarterbacks. You're talking about a guy who was there's no way they're not picking him. With another guy, which it was like, why did they pick him?
Exactly.
Think about it, right? Everybody was questioning what the hell were the Eagles doing? Why did they do that with that pick? Now you see why. So it's really good. It gives Hurts a chance to try and prove himself. It gives Joe Burrow. I mean, I don't know.
I think Joey will stay at the Bengals.
Contract.
Yeah, I think he'll stay. He'll stay. But again, professional sports players these days, what talks? Money. Money talks. If money's there, you take it and run.
Well, don't forget. Don't forget. Tom could take that less money because his wife at the time was actually making more than him.
Was.
Crazy
was.
to think.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But at that point in
She
time,
might be again soon. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's the thing. What's Tom's future? Like, at the end of the day, does he take retirement and go to work in the media like he was going to do? Or does he sign that contract with the Dolphins finally and take ownership or part ownership of the Dolphins and play that 1 year? Or does he come to the 49ers like everybody seems to be rumoring and play one final season and plays for the 49ers, gets us a Super Bowl, and he finishes off on a high note because he wanted to play for the 49ers all his life?
The thing that's crazy is to think that a team like the Dolphins or the 49ers would just give up on their young quarterbacks and be like, yeah, come on in, Tom. You're like old and playing like crap. We're going to just give you the helm now because you're like the GOAT. Which, I mean, I understand he is the GOAT. And like, it's going to be hard to like have somebody better than Tom Brady. But like when you have like a Brock Purdy playing out of his mind right now, you have a Trey Lance who has Mahomes-like potential. You know what I mean? Like these type of players, like, it'd be so hard for me to be like, okay, let's just give up on that and bring in a guy that's just going to be here a year. Like, granted, you're going to sell a crap load of tickets because it's Tom Brady.
You got to think of it this way. As a business, what makes you money? Winning Super Bowls or selling merchandise?
Yeah.
Imagine TB on a 49ers jersey. How many jerseys will you sell? How many factories have to make those jerseys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, the Cowboys prove that. Look at that merchandise, and they don't win shit.
But they're America's team.
Right. They still do get a lot of love, the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Actually, that's a question for you guys to ponder next week. Dak Prescott.
I actually am. I'm big on Dak, like bigger than most people, but is he a Super Bowl winning quarterback? I don't know. I mean, dude, honestly, like, is he going to be better than what Tony Romo was? Probably not.
No.
If I'm being honest, like, and honestly, I was a Romo guy too. I like Tony Romo, but I didn't think he was a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Well, I mean, what does he do different than Tony Romo? Nothing. When you think about it, he really doesn't do anything different than Tony Romo. And Tony Romo couldn't get it done.
The Cowboys are a lot like Dan the Cardman's favorite Australian football team, the Parramatta Eels. And the last time they won a premiership is like 1986. Their catch cry for the last 30 plus years has been next year. And that'll be every year for the Cowboys. Next year. It should be on a jersey, trust me.
Yeah.
Because they always get to the playoffs. And what happens? They either don't show up or they get kicked out after the second round. I was actually surprised they actually beat Tom Brady last week.
Do you think some of this stuff is organizational? Like, as far as like we were talking earlier about the Jets and just like the fact that they like Quinnen Williams might be the first guy in 12 years that's re-signed a rookie contract. You know what I mean? Like, do you think a lot of this stuff is like organizational, or do you think the Cowboys, like maybe it might be coaching? It might be like, it just seems like once it's like a continuous thing year after year, regime after regime, it might be something organizational. I don't know.
There's something that's not in harmony though. Like with the Jets, like I picked the Jets this year as being the dark horse team, and they had been for most of the season.
Yeah.
You know, I was actually surprised by the other New York team, which Mike doesn't seem to support, but I was very surprised on how both New York teams played. But Jets for me were the dark horse team. I thought Zach Wilson will step up, and then he opened his mouth. And just basically, you lose that harmony in the team. That's what causes the cancer in the team. Nobody wants to play for you, and you just go down south pretty quickly. And I think that's what the problem is some of these guys will say something, be it in the locker room or in the media, and it just puts the rest of the team off. And if you put the rest of the team off, they're not going to play for you. They're going to find a way to get rid of you. We see that here in Australia with the Australian football. It's not usually other players that go. They find a way to get rid of the coaches that way. They'll go on a losing streak for like weeks on end, and all of a sudden that rumor comes in, is the coach's job safe? Typically it's not. He'll be gone by the end of the season or replaced mid-season. So I think it's a similar thing for the American sports, but it's actually the stars or the rookies that will get actually thrown under the bus in that case. You know, you've got to get that harmony in the team. Niners are showing that harmony. Eagles are showing the harmony. Christ, look at KC. You know, everybody questioned why they put Scantling in there, and they put, they took Kadarius Toney from the New York Jets, New York Giants. Sorry.
Yeah.
Look how well those two guys have been playing since they've joined that team. The harmony is there, and they're all being utilized better than they had been at the teams they were at previously, without sacrificing other players' ability to play. Sky Moore, rookie, he's played exceptionally well this year too.
Even Juju Smith-Schuster spoke out this week in regards to that, like how much different it is playing in the playoffs for this team as opposed to Pittsburgh, because he went to 3 playoff games with the Steelers and lost all 3. Just like he says, the preparation in KC is different. Like the organization is just run differently.
And communication is probably a big thing too. Like how you communicate to your players, just like you do in an everyday job. Communication is essential. As long as they know where they stand and what they've got to do, that's going to be a major factor in it too. But yeah, it's just one of those things you see this every time in real life. If there's no harmony in a team or a workplace, things become a little bit disgruntled and don't work too well.
Yep.
But
yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing is when you talk about it and you step back and you think about it, it definitely has to be something because they have good players. Dallas. It's not like they have, crap. They have,
Lamb, Schultz, Pollard, phenomenal players there.
Dak is an upper level quarterback. I'm not saying he's elite, but he's upper level. Their defense, they have, good guys at each level of the defense. It's just.
I want Micah Parsons at the 49ers with Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and Hufanga. That would be disgusting.
Oh my god!
And bring Joey across too. Bring Joey Bosa across. Get all those guys working together in one team.
You want us to send you TJ Watt and Minka too?
That's good. Yeah, TJ and JJ come out and retire it. There you go.
We can even send you Derek. You can block for Christian McCaffrey.
No, you need Nick Bosa to leave the Chargers and head up to San Francisco.
No, Joey.
Bosa. Who?
You mean Joey, not Nick. Nick's already at the 49ers.
That's right, Joey Bosa. You need Joey to go ahead and leave and head up there.
Yeah, I feel sorry for him the other day. Like they really got done wrong on that game.
So OJ's asking, what state are you in Australia?
Mate, I'm in New South Wales. I'm just in the Western Sydney area. So if you know Sydney quite well, you'll know where I'm out towards Penrith. It's good. It's warm at the moment. It's going to get warmer tomorrow. So it's going to be a little bit like the Philippines, steamy and warm.
Nice. Well, I could use a little steamy warmness. It's been reasonably cold here in Pittsburgh. Moving back from California, it's been but transition on my brittle bones.
The thing is, you get snow over there, right?
We do, yeah. Okay. It's supposed to snow all day tomorrow too.
You've lived in LA. LA's pretty good. It's quite close to the beaches and stuff like that, so it's quite breezy. Like we get people from Victoria, Melbourne, where it doesn't snow. It just rains, or it's a little bit like Seattle. They come up to Sydney, they hate the weather here. It's too hot. It's the same with people come from Queensland. They come to Sydney, it's too cold. We've got the right temperature all around the year.
Yeah, Australia is definitely on my bucket list too, Paul. He says he hopes to visit soon.
When you come across, hit us up.
Dude, like if I go there, me and you are hanging out. We're gonna go get some food, we're gonna go get some cards, and we're gonna just do it big, man. And
there's a bed here for you waiting to go, mate.
Don't throw me with a good time, man. I'll end up there. But yeah,
trust me, mate. I'll take you out bush. I'll show you around.
I'm gonna have to literally look at my schedule because I would love to take you up on that, man. Like seriously, it's like one of my bucket list places. Like if you were to say like Anthony, you can pick one place to go on vacation, it would either be like the UK or Australia, just because those are two places I've never been.
UK? Why would you want to go to UK? You must go to Boston.
You guys both have cool accents, and I can understand
Boston.
You and speak to you.
Yeah, go to Boston.
Dude, I have a British Siri on my phone. Like if I try to get like directions, Siri goes, turn left over here. It's like, I don't know. I just like the accent. It's pleasing to me. Paul
just
says,
remember, when you do come to Australia.
What's that?
Yeah, super boring.
Yep. Okay.
But if you come to Australia, you just got to remember the following things. Check for the most dangerous animals in the world on a continent.
Yeah, pretty much Australia. The bad part about Australia is I'm so tempted to, like, if I ever see a kangaroo, try to like reach into its pouch. But I've heard that they're the most vicious animals on planet Earth.
No. So it's a if you have the big reds, which usually stand from tail to ears, probably looking at 10 foot, maybe a bit more. They can actually disembowel you. So yeah, you got to be careful of those big bastards.
So like just kicking you like in the stomach, they could like make your guts fly out. Is what you're saying?
If you have a look at some YouTube videos, you'll see it. What they do is their tails are pretty strong. They'll actually use their tail, and they'll have their front feet, and they'll grab hold of you, and their back feet, you've got razor sharp. Like if you've seen Jurassic Park, where they talk about that razor sharp claw, the bucks have those claws. They'll just dig into your gut and just disembowel you.
That's wild. So that's like freaking Velociraptor type stuff.
Yep. And if you do cuddle a koala bear, even in the States, just remember koalas carry chlamydia.
Oh,
chlamydia. Wow. Oh, yeah. It's an all fun country. You'll love it here.
I guess this is a video of a kangaroo trying to break into a place with his big claws. Like I basically just Googled kangaroo disembowelment. That's wild. Have you ever had one come up to your house?
That's a big buck.
So that's like a male one?
Yep.
Oh my goodness!
Claws. Wow.
He's not even fully built. He's not even fully built. You see some of the other ones. They look like the Ultimate Warrior.
He's like, it's like straight up Ultimate Warrior. Like I'm waiting for him to start shaking ropes, man. Like that's wild.
These things get jacked. They will rip you apart. You know. Wow. And then that's not even accounting for, the snakes and stuff like that we have here.
Yeah. How cool? Like how wild are the kangaroos? Like, I mean, as far as like, do you see them? Are they more out in the country where it's less populated and stuff like that, or will you see them in neighborhoods?
So Sydney is the largest city in the country, and I live roughly about an hour from the main city centre. So we're outer west, which is, if you ever Google it, look for the Blue Mountains in Penrith. That's pretty much where the bush starts. But I'm about 20 minutes from Penrith in regards to the car driving. We get a lot of roos around here. We get a lot of roos getting hit by trucks and that, but you still see roos close to suburbia. But most of the roos this way are not the big reds. The big reds are the ones that are further west, out towards the plains and stuff like that. Here we usually get the greys and the smaller versions. So they're a lot more placid. But the one thing you've got to watch out for them, they do carry a lot of ticks because, funnily enough, the roos are actually immune to ticks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But you'll see, like, I've got friends who live further down south, about 2.5 hours south, and they used to have a caravan park down there. And you see the roos come in for feed and that, but you'll see them just absolutely littered with ticks all the time.
That's wild.
And that doesn't affect them. The ticks get swelled up and they just fall off when they're fed. Doesn't affect the roos at all. It doesn't paralyze them. Nothing. They've found an immunity to them.
That's interesting. Wow.
But, yeah.
So I guess in closing, man, is there like really anything else that you would like to share, like as far as like with the people?
Not really. Like, I do appreciate you guys letting me come on and having a chat with you.
You're always welcome, man. Like, seriously.
Bit of a hard thing to do, juggling with work and that. And like, luckily, tomorrow, if we did it tomorrow, it's Australia Day, so it's a day off anyway. But I usually work tomorrow. Today's my normal day off, and of course you're traveling, and Mike's traveling at the moment, so it's worked out well for all three of us. But yeah, I did enjoy this. It was a good chance to catch up and talk whatever we want to talk, and be it sport or collecting or whatever. It's been great. Just shout out to the guys that I was talking about before, ICG, Imperial Car Grading,
Check them guys out if you guys are local to the area. Definitely go and support them, show them love. You know what I mean? Let them know that you heard about them on Picksburgh. Let them know that David gave them the shout out.
Yeah, awesome. And they're on Facebook as well, and they're very, very communicative. They'll communicate with well on Facebook, and Even if you live in Sydney and you want a card store to go to, if you've been looking for a place to go to hang out and have a check out of what other people collect, definitely go out to Diggers. Michael out there will take care of you.
Yeah, like I was saying before we went live, I've seen David. There was either Instagram or.
Oh, he's frozen.
Uh-oh. His turn.
Oh, there he's back.
We did not hear you.
My bad. I was just going to say, I said before we went live, I've seen David in a live stream before at Diggers in a video, and it looked really awesome. So if you guys are in the area, make sure you check them out as well.
Paul's got a good
and
thing.
He also sells to the people in the States.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Absolutely. That's what we need, more of people collaborating together, regardless of where they're from.
Yeah, we need to get Tally on here too.
Yeah, completely agree. Find out what the hobby's like in Australia.
Yeah.
It's funny. Every time I hear Niners, I think of you and Tally specifically, like every single time.
We're the only two Niners that fought for cards.
Yeah.
But Diggers is pretty good. Like they do ship overseas as well. So nice. Michael just sold I think it was 8 boxes of certified to a person in the States. So
nice.
And that's all you can get. It's just too expensive to get now because everybody wants Brock Purdy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a tough
Be a way to get ABL cards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. Especially like some of these like young and up and coming guys. I can basically just be like, Dave, who are the good ones? And you know what I mean? Start grabbing them.
That's it.
So, Michael, is there anything coming up on Huddle Card Collection this week?
Not a whole. I would say there is a possibility of maybe a pop-up live on Saturday from a card show in Atlanta.
Nice
little collaboration there with some people. But other than that, we're just pounding away, opening up retail, showing people what their possibilities are, and hopefully getting some halfway decent cards and just keeping it doing what we're doing. Trying to build up the eBay store. I mean, that's really the big focus right now, of trying to build up the eBay store with more cards. So, but that's good. Looking forward to this weekend and grab some Kia Soto.
Yeah, once Kai gets available, I'll definitely grab some cards for you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see the cards released this year. So
yeah, that would be awesome. Cool. Well, again, like Michael said, there is a show this weekend in Atlanta called Culture Collision. It's like a really big one by Prism God. Myself, Chef Marte will be there. Gate City Paul's coming in. Michael obviously will be there because he's a local to GA guy at the moment. So we're all meeting up at the show. We're going to have a good time. I'll probably film some content down there and then probably do some live streaming and stuff like Michael said. We're going to have a really good time. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of it. But again, the giveaway and this show next week are over on Huddle Card Collection. So make sure you subscribe. And if you would and follow Dave as well, I'd appreciate that. I have his links and everything in the description. But again, Dave, I genuinely appreciate you spending 3 hours with us, man. Like,
thanks a lot,
it's
Dave.
been fun, guys. It's been very much fun.
Likewise. Cool. All right, guys, until next week, God bless you, and I hope you all have a wonderful week.